Here's a message of importance to millions of people who are continually pale and washed out, weak and run down. Doctors will tell you that these conditions are often caused by a deficiency of iron. The iron you need to keep you physically fit and mentally alert. Medical studies show that 2 out of 3 women and many, many men lack the daily iron your body requires in a form your body can easily use and put to work. Every dose gives you more than your daily minimum iron requirement.
We are awake, we are awake, we are not alone. We are striving for more.
So if you're not getting the iron your body needs, if you feel weak, run down, and are easily upset, start taking iron today.
Well, TGIF, ladies and gentlemen, thank God it's Friday. Thank God for another fabulous opportunity to sit in with you folks. You're listening to Have No Sphere, right here on the Iron Realm Media YouTube channel. We're a couple men short, well, I guess one man short tonight. Zachary Zabala is out roughing it. He's camping. He's out in the high mountains. Camping with the Nodells. So big shout out, love and safe travels to Bob, Cammie, Jaron, and of course, Nathan Johnson. We've got such an awesome show. I don't even know how to describe how happy this makes me. I really do enjoy the guest that we have on this week. He's a returning guest. But before we get into it, let's jump in and say hello to the fellas that did join us. I want to start off with Adam Meekin, because I know Adam is sweating a lot. He's hot. He's chilling out there, taking a vacation. Adam, how's your week been, sir?
Bueno. Buonasera a tutti, eh?
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. I'm trying to stay Italian. I'm loving it, mate. It's hot. It was 45 degrees today. But I think it's similar in the UK, or they've been getting close. I left Italy, and it was hotter in the UK the day I moved away than when I got here. But loving the break, mate. I keep dipping into flat Earth. But other than that, loving it. Loving it. Just me, my boys, and my wife having a bit of family time. And it's been really, really nice. And looking forward to a few more weeks of it. Other than that, really looking forward, as you just said. James is one of those guests that I sit quietly and listen to. Just because the level of detail is a lot. I have one of Ranty's shows tonight. All those things. So looking forward to it.
You're breaking up just a little bit there, talking about the level of detail of James's work, but
yeah,
so yeah, it seems like it's just going to wait and break up every time you talk. You move the camera around real good. You start talking and it's just robots, Phil. That's all right though. I suspect it'll work.
I'll cut the camera.
That might help it. That might do it.
I thought I'd try the camera for one night only, but there you go. Obviously, my ugly mum. But yeah, so I'll summarise quickly. Really looking forward to James. He's one of the guys that I really do enjoy listening to. The detail and the research he's done speaks for itself. And yeah, looking forward to staying quiet tonight. Listen to James.
Awesome. Well, then let's move on over to Rob and see what the hell Rob has been up to. Rob, how's things going down there in Australia?
Sports. John Savage gets to sit up in front with me because he's a good guy at sports. How's that?
That's something.
What a time to be alive. So much sport going on. I love it. Up till midnight every night watching whatever I want. It's great. Good to be on the show. I've never met James before, so I'm looking forward to what he's got to say.
Yeah, you should, because it's liable to break some brains, as mine is often broken. Let's see.
Good.
Why don't we head on over to John Savage? I think that'd be good. John, how in the hell has your week been, sir?
Oh, ups and downs, mate. Ups and downs, but no sport, unfortunately. No time for balls. But yeah, no, I've had a couple of weeks off, basically. So it's nice to be back. And yeah, a lot been going on, actually. Quite a lot in Flat Earth. We've got Jaren's NASA video coming out, 50 years. And then NASA going nowhere. We've got ODD back on the scene, I see, with oh God, help me out. I forgot Josh's name earlier. with Roxanne. And then we got Stefan, who's putting out some from FE Core, who's putting out some amazing gyro videos. I don't know if people have been keeping up with them. Absolutely awesome. And
what channel was that one on, John, with the gyro videos?
On FE Core's channel. He's put out, I think, eight tests so far with his CNC milled high precision gyroscope. But it's just awesome to look at. If you like that sort of thing, if you like engineering and things like that, it is a thing to behold. So yeah, I'm just in awe.
Has it been debunked by any try-hard globers?
Oh, of course, yeah. All you got to do is know fourth grade physics and gravity, and that's it. It's done. You don't need any more than that. So yeah. So I've been keeping up with the Epstein thing. I don't know if anyone else has. By the sounds of it, they're all over it in America. And we've got a Flat Earth novel coming out soon. I think September, October maybe time, by a guy called Douglas Falk, I think his name was, who is going to be on here. When is it? A couple of weeks' time, I think, Josh?
I think that's right. We can head on over to the ironrealmedia.com and check the schedule over there. We've got a Google Calendar that should have a list of anything we've got booked. So
that's right. And finally, Zach put out an awesome video with his Van de Graaff generator that was discussed on Jarenism Raw with David Weiss, and threw a spanner in there, sort of works a little bit, but it's interesting to discuss. So yeah, lots going on. Is Flat Earth going away? Is it? Fuck. Anyway, I'll leave that. That's my 3 weeks backdated.
Well, we're sure glad you're back on here, John. We missed the hell out of you.
I didn't.
Well,
thank you very much. I didn't miss you either, Rob. Don't worry.
And I guess that sort of rounds out, leaving only Walter Johnson behind. Walter, I talked to you this morning, sir, so I know how your week's been relatively, but why don't you let everybody else know how your week's been?
It's been a week. It's definitely been a week. As John said, lots going on. We've covered the space end of it, I think, so well that it broke my brain this morning on the show. If you want to go hear that happen. Yeah, 47 thanks. I'm not sure. Go figure it out. It's pretty insane. We might get into that and see what James has to think about that. Hey, you know me. I rap and yap here enough. This man is here, and we need to talk to him. James, True, sir, how are you? Welcome to the Have No Sphere show. We're so glad to have you back.
Man, it's great to be here, guys. I'm been looking forward to this all week. So yeah, here we are.
Great to have you back. Josh, how's your week going?
Oh, it's been quiet. I'm still out there trying to find a halfway decent slave master, you see, because I need my life credits. And I'm having a hard time earning life credits with a desirable slave master since I can't seem to earn my own life credits. I've got to make somebody else really rich and let him dole out a few crumbs to me. So,
Are you regretting leaving your last slave master?
no, I don't think it's... Again, they had taken so much that I finally had to draw a line in the sand and put my foot down.
It's a problem, isn't it? I mean, you still got to eat, you still got to pay the bills, and it's a problem, isn't it?
It's
Respect to you, though, Josh, for telling them to piss off. They take the mick.
Even when you're sleeping in the gutter, we'll respect you. All right.
good enough because I'm liable to be there. No, I mean, we've got another income, and my wife makes fairly decent money. So on just hers alone, we can struggle and get by. But who the hell really wants to do that? If I could earn life credits and make that struggle less and take the stress off of her, that's what I would prefer. So, yeah.
I do. That's exactly what we do.
And I'm
My
sure
wife pays for everything.
I would have to interject there, boys. I'm the reverse, technically, in terms of what we earn. But a marriage is a partnership, and whilst my wife isn't out earning life credits, she's doing the more important things for me and my family.
She's doing the plumbing, isn't she?
Well, you give it a go. She should have seen me with a hole in the pool this afternoon. She weren't much help, mate. But we're a team, and
That's how it works. That's how it works. Well, how does it work with your end, on your end, James? Are you the breadwinner? Are you the slave master? Or
I am just me. I got 2 dogs. They're really good to me. So
nice.
very, very easy needs. I have hummingbirds. They're actually buzzing my head right now. So that's about the extent. I'm really just free to write. It's been kind of beautiful.
That's
I just
fantastic.
really focus on that. I mean, this wasn't my goal in life, but life turns up. It gives you what it's going to give you, and it's really been working out to be kind of a kick-ass blessing, actually, especially the last couple of years. I've really, really valued my autonomy. The life
That's
credits are
amazing.
hard. I hear you that. I've been self-employed for like a decade or two, and I finally switched, not by choice, but I finally switched over to writing full time. I'd say since January, and I'm not quite getting there, but it's enough to where I'm able to kind of keep trying to make it work. So
You got one hell of a CV, though. I mean, just reading the bio that Josh put up in the description it's just makes me sweat just reading that. You've been everywhere, done everything. You've been just run us through what it is what you have done so far that led you to the path of becoming a full-time author, I suppose.
yeah, well, before these 2 books, I was a writer, but I was writing Perl. I was writing software. I was writing C code and Objective-C and JavaScript, and it was trading my words for life credits, but I only thought that they would be valuable if I was writing in the specific language and saying what the world wanted me to say. 10 print hello, 20 go to 10. That there's a magic in writing code because you're able to play with infinity. And for like 20 years, I was really enjoying the passion of just the raw code writing, of like spidering eBay and saying, well, no, I want to have a database of every auction that's for sale. There should be value in that. I should be able to extrapolate that and look at trends and maybe sell that data. And then you start to create these little robots that go out and do stuff. And you really start to realize it's like a sacred magic language. Like I can open a portal in this strange world. I can release a spirit of some kind and put it out into this etheric realm that has its own limitations, but also has its own energy centers. And I can go and gather data. I can not only that, but I can create a spider, and that spider can create 100 child spiders, and those 100 child spiders can create 1 million spiders altogether that all go out and do one task, which is, hey, eBay, what do you have for sale in this category? And eBay will tell me that. It doesn't care how many times I ask it.
Wow, that's super interesting.
You know, writing code like that really is, it's kind of opened me up to the idea of this is like raw magic. So I was always happy to be a programmer for a long time. Not really understanding, by the way, that it's not like when I was writing code, this is how I thought of. It's not like I was wearing a wizard costume going, oh, I'm going to write a JavaScript app. You know, it wasn't that way. This is just more about how I've thought about it. Like once I transitioned into writing, I really noticed I'm still writing code. I'm just writing in a different etheric realm. Like I'm writing it in the realm of real biological ideas, you know, of like the zeitgeist of man. And it's so much more rewarding to me. It's just so much more rewarding. And another concern I had writing code is I was always like, not really producing anything that I'm going to be able to show anybody, because I know in 3 years, all this code's probably going to be junk. Like no one's going to run it, you know? And so that was always kind of a thing that bothered me about it. But I never really said I'm going to go into writing. Seriously, the universe was like, you're not writing code anymore. It doesn't matter how hard you try. It's going to keep backfiring. You just need to publish your blog crap and just, you know, see what happens. I've been writing for decades just privately. And so I finally, you know, threw together some stuff and put it out there to see if there was any nibbles. And, you know, it's kind of been going ever since. But before all the software, I was in the newspaper business, not as a writer. I was actually the art director. So I was like designing covers. I was learning how to grab eyeballs as they move down the street. You know, there's a real visual formula to what makes a headline attractive, the smell of a story, you know, the flavor that comes out. So accidentally, I've always been kind of versed in this idea of putting a bait in the water and, you know, using that to attract eyeballs, to attract attention. And it really ties back into this whole idea of this kind of the magic stuff, which is really more about like prana, more like energy kind of stuff, which is, as a writer, now I'm exploring this stuff all the time. You know, it's just really fascinating to think about this stuff, to be able to just look at the world and not get lost in the minutia of, oh, I have to mow down 6,000 robots today and rebuild 3,000 more and clean all these log files and flush. It's just a totally different process now. So, yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. I remember when my sort of first big paid job was a webmaster. I didn't really know what a webmaster was, but I got the job and made it what I made it. But so we were doing search engine optimization and this sort of thing, and so I knew all about spiders. But it was, to me, always black magic. What are these spiders that just go out and search, you know, all these URLs and bring them back, and DNS and all this sort of stuff. So to meet someone who's actually creating these spiders is, that's quite interesting.
It's really easy stuff. It's just about finding the right language for it. Perl is like hands down the best programming language out there to learn. And it's something that no one really talks about. No one really learns. In fact, PHP is something you guys might have heard of that's more popular, but Perl really is it's almost like the Latin. It's an underlying language that you're going to find pretty much on any platform. I don't want to bore our viewers, but it's a really, really powerful language. I would recommend it to anybody just as a way of just understanding how software works, you know, how computer works. Once you understand how Perl is, it's kind of like the, you know, you've got like your halberds if you're going into battle, this giant, you know, battle axe thing on a pole. Then you've got your broadsword. Perl's like a really, really handy kind of short sword. It's just right there all the time. You can pull it out anytime you want. You can hack firewood with it. You can kill a goblin with it. You can roast a marshmallow on it. You know, it's just an all around really, really valuable tool. And
when you start looking at code and schematics, and then you go back and look at magical diagrams and you knock in circles, and I mean, you know, it seems to be real similar.
It's the exact same thing. And that's why it's so freaky, Walt, to think about the idea that if like demons are somehow channeling, like back in John Dee's time, right? Like 007. Like imagine a demon telling John Dee, hey man, this black onyx rock you're using to, I forget what it's called all of a sudden, but maybe it's obsidian, but the scrying device that you're using is a rock. Well, I know how to make it even shinier. I know how to make it light up. I know how to put power inside that black screen. I can put power in here and I can show you how to do that. And John Dee's like, what are you talking about? He's like, it's going to take a few years, but let's get started. And it could easily be something that's just slowly developed over time, where this is where you think about the concept of morphic resonance, because we have ideas that come to us, but on the other side of that, there's this realm where the ideas are born and they go to someone else. So it's kind of freaky when you really look at what software, what it's actually doing. And just how powerful it really is and how much it's changing all of this. And then
you're a big believer in morphic resonance then, James?
Seems to be the thing that explains genius, it explains psychopathy, it explains evil, it explains good, it explains so many things where it's just going to naturally, this is the natural pattern that would develop from this. So yeah, it doesn't have to be conscious. I think humans are really misguided by how we think being aware of something is the key. We do things all the time. Say again?
I was just going to say, morphic field is something that interests me, particularly with regards to the role of Jesus. But are you aware of the blue-ticked morphic field effect that occurred? Yeah, it's a small bird, a little bit the size of a robin, but it's blue-breasted, and they're a native bird to the UK. And I think during the 60s and 70s, the milkman is something we have. Excuse the ramble, James. It will make sense in a minute. But we have a thing called a milkman, which is the guy that used to bring fresh milk to your door every day, drop it on your doorstep. And obviously the milk is sealed with aluminium foil, heat sealed around the lid of a glass bottle. And what was noticed during the introduction of these milk rounds was that certain blue tits were noticed attacking the tops of the foil, pecking them and drinking the cream off the top of the milk. And this was discovered occurring in the south of England, where it was first released. But as the milk rounds released around the UK, all of the birds started attacking the milk. Once that morphic field had been built up and within the blue tit genome and understanding, then the whole of the blue tit population understood that you could acquire food source from this. It wasn't transferred from bird to bird. It wasn't taught from mother bird to baby bird. It was just transferred. However, and I think it's described as morphic field.
That would also explain that thing where you see, like, out across the field, just a group of something flying, and they're doing like a school of fish where they're just all waving, and it's like, how is that possible in the speed? I'll pull over on the side of the road when I see that happen just to watch it, as long as it'll be in sight, because it makes me just feel connected to whatever that field is.
Yeah, there's a piece of code you write. It's typically it's called Game of Life. It's a way that programmers kind of learn things, and you start off with a grid, and you're creating dots on the screen, and the dots will naturally reproduce based on an algorithm, a simple algorithm you give it. And what ends up happening is through that algorithm, even though it's randomized, you still end up seeing morphic patterns, just like that bird. It's exactly like that. There's tendencies will pop up, and then you'll find that there's a real simplicity. There's a simple level to this game, and then there's another way of coding the exact same game where you're trying to introduce, like, the Fibonacci sequence. You're actually trying to introduce like certain ratios that you feel would be harmonic, and those harmonic fields really starts to tap into this morphic resonance. And just as birds, just like you're absolutely right to say that, you know, they don't learn. They are suddenly have access to this information. That the exact same patterns actually start to happen in software too. I don't think that this means that our world is digitized, not by any means. I think that our world is as special as it is, and we can't help but create software that mimics that same kind of effect.
Exactly.
None of us are trying. Jared Kushner really wasn't actually trying to buy 666 Fifth Avenue. Like, I know we want to believe that he does. I'm not even going to say that he didn't come up with a thought. But what I mean is even if he wasn't trying, this would end up happening anyway. This is part of why the people that know what's going on, they tap into morphic resonance all the time. We interpret it as symbology. We say, oh, well, they just like to be symbolic. No, they don't like to be symbolic. It's a natural pattern that's occurring. If you're going to hold $1.8 billion, you have to understand that there's a morphic field. Actually, I shouldn't say morphic. There's a pranic field around $1.8 billion. Whether you want to say, oh, I don't believe in money, you can't change the fact that if someone walks in the door and you are aware that they have $1.8 billion, it is impossible for you to treat that person not different. Like it's even if it's just impossible. And yeah, we can argue, well, if Jesus was in the room, he could do it. You know, Krishna could do it. Buddha could do it. Yes. Yeah, I agree. That's almost, you know, that's the mark of how comfortable you are in yourself, is that you can not be affected by those things. But so on the surface, we have a $1.8 billion thing that's also fiat currency. So it's not even real. But underneath it is this prana. Underneath, if you were to strip out the money, you would still see that there's like this vortex around this guy that has $1.8 billion. There's nothing you can do to change it. It's something about that. Underneath our bullshit, when I'm talking about the words we use to talk to each other, there's this prana economy. There's this economy of energy that where we are buying and selling, we're exchanging, we're receiving, we're trading, all this energy. And I think we would understand each other a lot better if we'd stop freaking using words all the time and actually just try and behold, what was my energy today? How did I contribute to my dog? How did I contribute to my neighbor? How did my neighbor contribute to me? Because on the surface, the neighbor's going to be like, yeah, I thought about you and made you this cake. But underneath the surface is something totally different, which is, look, man, I'm going to need you to watch my cat for a week, but I haven't asked you yet. There's totally different things happening. And we keep thinking that, well, we have to get higher up on the surface, you know, to see the reality. And in fact, this outer surface is what's throwing us all off. It's getting us so confused. This is the spell of Babel. This is the spell of language that we've been given from a young age. There's nothing you can do about that. If I'm sitting here trying to work and one of you is saying words, strawberry, Bismarck, Appalachian, green, mauve, no matter what I'm doing, I cannot help but those sigils are now popping up in my mind. It's a possession. You're able to possess me with those words.
James, can I just stop you there and just ask, are some people more receptive to that than others? Because I can sit in a room with my kids and my wife, and she's reading a book, and the kids are just yabbering or yapping or whatever in the background. I can't block that out. I literally cannot block it out. If I can hear it and I can comprehend it, then it's exactly what you're saying. It pops in, it's popping into my head. My wife can just absolutely ignore them and me and not hear a thing. She can just sort of shut the walls down and go into her own head and literally hear nothing going on around her. Are the people more susceptible to this than others?
It's a brilliant question. This is actually the first I've even thought about it. It makes me think that Well, first of all, the funny thing I want to say is that, well, you've given your wife a lot of practice, you know, to like learn how to tune out that kind of stuff. No, I'm kidding.
Oh yeah, no, I have.
But I wonder if it's a different energy because it's a female thing. Like I don't know. This is the first I've even considered it. I don't know. It's a good question. But you do. I'm glad that you see what I mean, though. It's a possession. Like if someone says dirty shit nickels, you are changed now. Like you were there eating scalloped potatoes, and that's now different. Everything about that is now different from that possession, and you didn't have consent. You see what I mean?
Yeah, well, this is what I was going to say about that advertising stuff that gets in your head. You know, I was going to sort of say that there is a threshold that's being crossed there, or this consent threshold that even though the gates of your head are wide open, as mine are, it doesn't necessarily mean that you want your mind to be filled with babble and bullshit. So, yeah, I don't know how that sort of stands. But for anyone that doesn't know the prana economy that you're talking about, could you break that down a little bit for anyone who's listening that's just sort of first come across it? Because you've been writing about it quite a lot recently, I know.
Yeah, in fact, people keep asking me for a definition, and I'm like, that's a great question. I really need to define what I mean by that. So first of all, the reason why I swear this is answering the question. The reason why people want you to believe that space is a vacuum is purely for the idea that you will no longer think the ether is real. The ether has been proven scientifically to exist. You can use all modern science and see right now that we have evidence that shows us that we're in a flat stationary world, but there is some sort of nebulous ether that's rotating around us. This ether is something Tesla saw, but Einstein denied. Einstein was saying that doesn't exist. The ether is an imbuable medium. It's a clear liquid that you can inject colors or motion or heat or love or anger, just like a syringe, in different parts of the atmosphere. And you can say, here is this ether. I can take a turtle shell from my mantle and bring it to you. And if you could see prana, you would see that this turtle shell is just freaking glowing. Like it's just a billion colors. And the reason why is because I go by my mantle all the time and I look at my turtle shell. And when I look, I'm charging that turtle shell with my Parthenia. The Parthenon, the temple in Athens, comes from the word Parthenia. Parthenia is a virginity over time. You can imbue something with a virginity, a sacredness over time. And as it would be no different than if you were to find a bird's nest that had been abandoned on the street and it was in the gutter, and you were to pick up this bird's nest and just gently carry it home. You wouldn't have to talk to it. You wouldn't have to pull up this Enochian book and go, turn to 75 and go, oh, Machu Kunya. It's none of that crap. There's this prana economy underneath. By picking it up and by gently carrying it, you're imbuing that area with your prana. That area holds a bird's nest too. The bird's nest acts as like a cheesecloth for your prana. It's causing your prana to stick to this bird's nest. You bring that bird's nest home, you place it on your mantle. Now your mantle is glowing prana for weeks and weeks and weeks. What you did is that you found a dissolution in the ether and you rescued something. You resurrected something from it. That resurrection is an imbuing spell. You imbued the idea that in a world cast full of pig shit, I will find the sacred coin and wash it, and it will become something of value. Every week as you go by, you're going to feel that prana. You won't even notice it. When you look directly at the mantle, you will see it glowing, it will empathically make you smile. You won't have a choice about that. It's remembering what you put into it. It's remembering the charge that you gave it. As spider webs develop in that bird's nest, the prana is going away. It is de-imbuing because you're not giving it your parthenia. You were neglecting it. Now that could turn into a negative prana economy, if you follow what I'm saying. Let's say that you were painting, okay, and you got really pissed off because you backed up and you stepped in dog poop that you didn't see. And while you're painting and you're just like, damn it, and you flung the brush, right? And there's like paint all over the place and it gets in that nest, okay? You've imbued that nest with your pissed offedness, with your frustration, with dog shit. You've taken an event, just like you've had just like you had a desolation and you rescued something. You had a rescue and you desolated it by sticking your foot in dog shit. Like,
so is this similar to what is it, the Dr. Otakawa or something, where he would the guy who froze water particles. Sorry, Adam, what was his name?
I thought I was helping you out there. You were right. It's the ice crystal imbuing emotion.
God, that's brilliant.
Yeah, so if you say love or you say hate or you know the rice experiment's a classic one. You've seen
great.
that, yeah?
I thank you. I'm gonna put that in my that's the perfect example. I don't even, I could have just said that. That's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is, and that's why they've been telling us that's why Einstein's there. Yeah.
Can we IRM pick your brains on this one? Because even though he's not here tonight,
I was about to say, I wish Zach was here.
Was done by Zach, and there's a reason he's been given the tag "too nice for rice," and that's because he did the experiment. But we genuinely believe he couldn't emit any negative emotion to anything, never mind even rice. Yeah. And the bad rice was just as loved as the good rice in Zach's experiment. It was a miserable failure. and that
so
back
now
to,
he's too nice for rice, right?
You can say all the bad words you like, you're a dirty bastard. But if down in your heart you're meaning I love you, it doesn't matter what the verbalization is in that instance.
Yeah, Rob.
Well, I could say something about that.
Yeah.
I think why we're so confused about politics is that if you yell at the rice and if you talk nice to the rice, you're still giving it prana. You're still giving it. This is more of a theory. I'm not trying to put myself as an expert here, but to me, the way to destroy the prana is to neglect it. I would almost say that that's really the only way to disimbue something is to purposely neglect it. And now you can neglect something harder. In other words, if you could, a plant is the perfect example. You can neglect a rock, but you can neglect a plant a lot harder. The way you can do that is because you know that plant needs water to live. You know that plant needs light. So it would be possible to departhenize, right? I'm just making that up, but you could departhenize the water, but it would have to be, in my opinion, through neglect, through chronic neglect, which means you would have set the situation where you normally would have a contract with that, with that device. I don't even know if I'll make any sense, y'all, but you would sort of have that contract and then you would, de-fulfill it. You would, narcissists do this. They will build you up purely for the discard. Well, like it wouldn't be a good discard if they didn't tell you how amazing you were first for a while. This is all about prana. This is why vampires work the way they do. And if you start to see the world this way, I swear you're gonna cut through a lot of bullshit when you're talking to someone. You're just gonna understand right away. Oh, I see your prana economy. Like, you aren't here to discuss with me the meaning of the word authority or the meaning of the word sovereignty. What you'd rather do. I'm just saying this just happened to me. This isn't what's going on. This person is coming at me from a different standpoint. He has a different prana economy. That's why I call it that, meaning he's here to buy and sell this kind of prana, right? And he's only going to be buying that kind of prana from me. So what he says really is bullshit. Like it's not even decoration. It's almost manipulation. But keep in mind, what we think we're conscious of, I don't even think we're conscious of. We're not even conscious of what we're really after, what we're really feeling. This is why I think we can't talk to animals anymore. We're living on this, we think it's a higher realm. Like we think it's like this uber understanding.
Don't you find, though, James, that animals are really susceptible to this? This is what sort of changed my mind about this sort of thing, is that, you know, if you shout at the dog or because you're in a bad mood, I just can't do it anymore. You know, I can't find myself being angry at a dog for doing what dogs do. But I find animals are really receptive to this sort of thing. I don't know about you.
Oh,
with
absolutely.
two dogs.
I've had the privilege of working with a lot of like wildlife, like raptors, owls, hawks, stuff like that. And when you got them on the glove, they could take your eye out. That's possible any moment. And
you are the president of a wildlife preservation.
Yeah. There's just happens to be a local one. I mean, it's not like I'm like this badass wild. It just happens to be down the street, and I just kept going down there, you know, cleaning up poop, and then they made me president of the. I was the president of the poop pickup, but part of that is you really got to, I got to handle a lot of animals. Like I went into a cage with a bobcat, and I was like, I'm going to have to give this bobcat a shot. Like, all I had to do was push the bobcat up against the corner of the cage. But when I walked in the cage, first of all, it was like really short, so I couldn't stand up, and I was there. I had a catcher's mask on. I had shoulder welding gloves on, these giant raptor gloves on. I was pretty well protected. But I energetically, I realized once I got in that cage, holy cow, that like this bobcat is really in charge of what's going to happen right now. Like it has his own prana economy, and he's, he can't fight or flight, right? He can't fight. So what is he going to do?
Yeah.
So I was able to know, I'm not trying to say that like I'm like a Mr.
Horse whisperer or whatever.
I knew he was coming at me. It was just a matter of waiting for when that was going to happen. Like, this is going to happen, and I have to not have fear right now. I have to establish a different kind of prana economy with him, meaning I'm not going to be able to pay you in fear. I'm actually going to pay you in rock hard steadiness. It's just going to happen. And as you bite me, I'm just going to walk you over the corner of the cage and just, push you in the corner while they give you the shot. It's a different kind of prana economy. I really learned a lot working with animals. The wolves, especially. We had 2 wolves, and
oh wow!
I really wanted to be able to get in the pen with them, and the prana economy there is really just. These are not a bobcat; these are freaking wolves now, and it's a different kind of economy. So to do that, I just understood. You just understand. We just need to establish that here's my needs, here's what I do. So I would take dinner down there. I would eat in front of their pen, and I would just eat. I wouldn't give them anything. I would just eat. This is my meal. This is my food. By the way, please don't think I'm mean. We fed the wolves. I'm just telling you, this is how I got in. I would go and eat in front of them. And then every day I would urinate right there at the gate. Like I would walk up and I would pee right there at the gate. And I would try and have as much pee in me as I could, because the amount and the smell is part of my prana. It would be part of the energy that you're dumping out right there. I'm kind of getting off track here. What I'm trying to say is that I understood energetically what it was going to take to get me in that pen, to get me where I couldn't walk in and all of a sudden be afraid. Like that would be like really bad, like really, really bad. I had to walk in there with that. I'm Jim Brown. I'm the meanest, baddest man in the whole damn town. I had to be there. That's what you had to do.
Well, fear, they can sense.
Smell, food, dominance, and my ability, you know.
They
And
can
emotion-
sense the fear, though, can't they? I mean, that fear is one of the main things I find anyway with animals. But did you go into that job or that not job or occupation or whatever? Did you start doing that in terms of I'm going to open my Prana account now with wildlife and go into that consciously, or was that it just something you fell into and then started learning Prana form?
Yeah, it just started. It's just something that it was really just being in the right place at the right time, living up here. They were so close, and you know, I would find an injured animal every now and then, and I would just take it to them. People would call me a lot. I get calls all the time, you know, like 4 a.m. What is this bird? You know, and I'm just like, put the bird on the phone. They don't get my joke, but you know, you just, as you start to do rescue like that, you know, people will just naturally kind of flock to you. And, you know, I would just so it just kind of developed. Something I would have loved to have done as a career, but I learned.
I was going to say, dream job for most people, isn't it?
Yeah, I learned really quick. There's no way I would be able to do this for a living. There's just no way. There's a lot.
Too much emotion.
A lot of vampires in that realm. I hate.
Right.
There's a lot. There's a lot of really good energy too, but that's a tough world to survive in. In fact, well, I'll just say that's a tough world to survive in. But animals, man.
From the humans, do you mean, or the animals?
Yeah, the humans. Well,
Right,
also the job itself is seriously 4 out of 5 days you're euthanizing something that's just ripping your heart out. I mean, it's shitty work. And sometimes you have to. It's just, I don't like it.
I don't envy you. I couldn't do it. I could not work with animals just for the euthanasian factor. I could not put animals down on a consistent basis. I know for a fact my psyche couldn't handle it.
That actually was my one rule there was that guys, I'm just not doing this part. I mean, there were sometimes I had to. Typically it would be I would go out in the field to do a rescue and you find something, you know, and you have to help. You know what I mean? You have to fulfill the.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I wasn't able to do that part, and that's really part of why it was really nice that I was a volunteer, because I was able to go in up front and go, here's my ground rules. You know, here's what I'm willing to do. Here's what I'm not willing to do, and you know, that's the only reason why I survived as long doing that. We happen to be just pure luck. Where I live has the only undergraduate degree in wildlife rehab in the United States. I'm pretty sure in the United States. I could be wrong. Someone's probably going to say, no, it's not true. Sorry. But it's like one of the few. And because of that, there's just a lot of experiences around here. So there's some good teachers and stuff like that. You know,
It speaks volumes, doesn't it? That there isn't much in the way of education towards animal husbandry or correct ways of doing things. That speaks volumes.
So I rescued a kookaburra yesterday, John. I just posted the video of me doing that on our chat room.
Tell James.
Does that give me good karma or what?
What is it? A
Kookaburra? Australian native bird. Laughs at you.
Okay. Yeah.
Just slightly less annoying than most other Australians.
Yeah. So I've just posted that. You can probably put that up.
So what does that do for Rob's Prana account then?
He needs a lot.
Well, that's a long-term investment, because every single time, see the archetype now, Kookaburra, if I said that right, the archetype of Kookaburra is now permanently charged to Rob. Rob's going to be able to get a withdrawal from that archetype anytime he sees it. Think about the high school basketball game. It's tied, and there's 3 seconds left. And Johnny Boy, whose girlfriend is the cheerleader, and his parents are there, and the whole stadium is full of John's fans, and it's 3 seconds, 2 seconds, and he launches a 3-pointer shot, and it swishes. He makes it. While that ball is going into the ring, the basket, there's a giant prana economy happening, not just for Johnny. For every single person in that stand, is investing. They're either, first of all, they're giving the entire game, they're giving their prana to the game. All that game goes into a central pot, right? That pot is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. If Johnny throws that 3-pointer at the 2-second mark, he's literally calling everyone on the table. He's saying, I am all in. Here is all my prana that you can pull out of me for the rest of my life. It is now here when it comes to this, this genre. When he makes that shot, he is freaking hit the mother load. Think about it. Every time he sees a basketball game, every time he sees a movie where there's like the last minute shot and someone wins, every time he thinks about a cheerleader, every time he thinks about his parents, every time he thinks about his college that got him the scholarship, all of those things are prana economy. And they're going to pay huge if he makes it. If he doesn't make it. Remember that movie with Robin Williams where he was like a football player and
The World According to Garb.
Well, that was a good one, but I think this is a different one. There's a
It wasn't.
He misses the shot and he spends the rest of his life living that down. His prana, right? He bet everything, didn't he? He put everything on the line. He said, I'm all in. And when you go all in, you're either going to get a huge payoff, or every time you see a 3-pointer, every time you see a basketball, every time you see that, you're going to have to pay out. Oh, man, why did I shoot that 3-pointer? If I would have passed it to John or whatever, like he would have spent the rest of his life paying out that prana. And what could I have done differently?
I wouldn't pass it to John.
Rob, did you miss a shot when you were a kid?
Of course I did. Thousands of them. But I also got a few too.
Might explain a lot.
Cash in with the Cora banner.
Another good story, James. Another good piranha story, I suppose. I saved a parrot many years ago. It hit the house, was busted up pretty bad. Bought a cage, put it in the cage. So this is a wild animal, wild parrot. Took about probably 4 or 5 weeks for the parrot to become healthy again. Opened up the cage, off it went, shot it, and about 2 minutes later, it came back, sat near us where we were sitting out in the porch, or out in the veranda, and it was like it was saying, "Thanks very much," and off it went again, and never saw it again. But I thought, it was definitely that parrot because it come right up to us, and it was like it was saying, "Thanks for that," and off it went.
And guess what? Right now, I just gave you some prana for that. So did everyone here who just listened. In other words, it's a touching story. And this is exactly what I mean. I'm not saying you did that to get our prana, but there's nothing wrong with getting our prana. Like, we are here to give each other prana. It's beautiful. It's why we need ego. If we're shaming our ego all the time, we're walking around with limp prana. We're flaccid with our own energy. It's better that we feel pride in ourselves because we're able to say, wow, Rob, that's a beautiful story. I'm going to give you my prana. Instead of it being, how can I one up that story? Do you see what I mean? Like, if I had a weak ego, I might try and say, oh, well, I rescued an alligator and blah, blah, blah. And I taught it to drive and we got French fries.
But how many people have you met like that? Exactly like that. They will try and beat your story. I used to work with a couple of guys who they had a dead set. They had a discussion on who had seen more lights on a truck passing by. You have truckers that take pride in their trucks, and they put neon lights on their trucks. They might put them on the bull bar, and they went back and forth for 10 minutes talking about who had seen the truck with the most lights on it. Well, I saw a truck and had lights down the side. Oh, well, I had to walk away. It was just absolutely ridiculous, and the same sort of thing.
Well, I'll tell you what, James.
You always kind of beat yourself. It's just ridiculous.
I'll tell you what, James. I won't try and one up your story, Rob. We
can't, because you just live in a cave, remember?
By getting negative prana on how I shot a robin with an air rifle when I was about 10. So I'll leave that one aside and the negative prana that goes with it. But ego, you mentioned, and I'd like to know what your sort of take and definition is on ego, because it seems different to most other people's. I mean, I shun the ego quite a lot, but you've got a different take on it, haven't you?
Yeah. I fight really hard to get people to stop shaming their ego. I'm under the impression that the ego is our pranic field. It's our aura. And we live in an insane society that rewards you for flogging your ego in public. So, you're going to go out and say, oh, I'm so racist, or, oh, I'm so sexist, or, oh, I'm so fat, or, oh, I'm so dumb, or I don't even like saying these things. Like, this is how much I measure this kind of stuff. What I just said is not what I mean. I'm giving examples of this is how people do that. And we live in a society where we reward people for that. That's called virtue signaling. All of us have an inverse prana economy set in place, which means whoever can walk around the most drained, we're going to elevate with all of our drain. In other words, we're going to be dumping our prana out the window as we drive. But the person who loses the most first is going to be able to ingest more of that upchuck of what we're destroying. So we're going to walk around and pretend that we really loathe each other, but actually we're going to feed off of just how self-loathing we can be. And that's what causes identity politics, because after your prana level gets low, you now become a fish that's been placed on the dock, and you're no longer in water. You're sucking for air. And here's what we do as a society. When we find a fish that's out of water and they're flopping around, their ego is low, that they're acting out in violent ways. I just mean energetically violent. They're trying to one up someone, or they're acting inappropriately. What we do as society is we go up to them and say, hey, fish, why are you flopping around, man? Why don't you freaking chill? Like, we tell the fish that he should chill more, that he should be more ashamed of himself. Like, it's basically like saying, hey, you need to dry off with a towel, when actually the fish needs water. The fish needs ego. If it had ego, it would be able to listen to your story and not feel the need to one up you, because it's breathing fine. But we have a society where we're rewarding each other. If you come into the room, you need to dump your prana at the door. And the people that get attacked are usually the ones that have the most ego. That's why the word racism now, the racist is the person in the room who's least worried about being called a racist. That's literally what the definition is now. And that's the measure of ego. His ego is strong enough to where he's like, oh, I'm a racist. Oh, okay. Versus, oh, God, I'm a racist. It's a completely different prana economy because his ego is okay. I think that psychopaths would not be ruling the world if we weren't shaming the ego. And I mean,
that's where the whole PC thing, politically correct bullshit crap has led us to. I mean, that's their plan the whole time, is you have to be ashamed of your ego as mine runs rampant over you.
Well, I don't even know if it's someone else is really even running rampant over you, because what happens is once everyone, okay, here's a perfect analogy. Let's say that you're driving down the street, you look down at your gas gauge and you notice, oh gosh, I'm almost out of gas. Like, and you're really worried. Like, you notice it's been on there for a while, but you're not to the gas station yet. Imagine someone stopping your car and go, no, don't, please don't turn off the car. Hey man, why are you so upset? Well, I'm just trying to get the gas. Well, hey man, chill. Don't worry about the gas station. Well, why are you acting all freaked out? Well, because I'm afraid well, maybe you shouldn't be all freaked out. It's like, if you just let me get to the gas station, I will come back and do whatever you want. You've become possessed by your lack of gasoline. Imagine living that way 24 hours a day. That's what society wants. That's what all these identity programs want. They want you desperate so that you're really turning into a pack of hyenas, where that's where the sarcasm comes in. You'll notice that a lot of the scientism, the atheistic scientism, is 99% of it is sarcasm. It's part of what happens when you're a fish and you're flopping around and people are telling you that you need to chill out. You're now biting. Like you're just so desperate right now that there's nothing else that you will cannibalize yourself and anyone else around you as long as you can just get enough air to survive. This is why Freud was introduced. He wanted you to feel like, dude, you're just a guy that wants to have sex with your mother.
I was going to say, you're sounding a bit Freudian. That sounds a bit ego-dominating.
I hope I'm explaining myself actually as the antithesis of Freud, because I'm actually saying that no. This is not a coarse shame energy vortex. It's actually the exact opposite.
No, exactly. Freud was introduced. He's the modern St. Paul. He's the introducer of internal guilt in terms of that. The ego is a driver of something we should be ashamed of. The ego is something to hide and fear.
Exactly. And that's what the problem with society is people have too big of an ego. What happens to all of the cows? What happens to all the bulls in the ranch if you can shame them all? It's gelding, okay? You're by teaching us this about our ego, it's literally chopping our balls off. We are gelded through shame, and the ego is our prana sac. And if we've cut that sac, we don't build up that. I'm sorry to be gross. We don't get to build up that cum. We don't build up that essence of who we are. We don't have enough where we can just shoot it off. My dog, he likes to pee on things. He has a conservation of urine in him at all times. He plots his walk. Like, no, I'm going to really want to pee on that, man. I need to conserve it. All the pranic conduit. This is what it's all about. We need to be encouraging people that actually what we're seeing as, his ego's really big, is actually he's got a deficit. This person has a deficit of ego. That's why they're acting out in such a strange way. And I'm not helping him by saying, hey, man, stop the car. No, you don't need to get to the gas station right now. Let's have a conversation about why you're such a dickhead. Like, that's not going to help a guy that's almost out of gas. It's literally the last thing you should.
Someone in chat wants to know why you stopped the car in the first place.
A good question. That's probably where my analogy breaks down. My point is that it puts you in that state. You go into a heightened state when you're almost out of gas. And that's what society wants. That's actually how you geld a human. That's how you control a human. Because if you put them in that state, they're now reptilian, where it's fight, flight.
Instead of you trying to explain it, I think the analogy you draw is fantastic. And if people just take a minute, close their eyes, and think about that internal anxiety that's generated by society for the fact that there's no gas and all the horrors that could occur. That's what you're talking about to me. People need to just stop trying to quantify it and just feel it for a minute, that emotion. It's what's put in you, that fear that you have. You can't quantify it because it's individualized to the level of brainwashing that you've got. Some of us may go, I'll break down. I'll have a lovely sunny afternoon on the side of a road, and it's about how we perceive these issues, not necessarily, and it's the programming we've been given, how we perceive these issues when we encounter them. That's what we have to break. Is it really that bad a tragedy that on a way to a business meeting, all the stress and trauma stopped and you had to sit down and relax on the side of the road? That's not how your brain comprehends that situation. Shit, I'm going to lose this. I'm going to lose this. I'm going to lose this. This will mean this will happen. This will happen. That's what happens internally in the internal programming that society is giving you.
I don't know if you guys can hear.
Sorry, I'm responding more to chat there, James, than you directly. There's been a lot of new aginess comment about it. And new age is, to me, is a derogatory term that's designed for us not to explore all those issues. Put it to one side. If you've got any Christian thoughts, then the word new age should scare you off. And it's all that programming that's designed to not allow us to explore the humanity and the emotions and the connections we can make with animals that we were given by God as a grace, you know. Initially, they're forgotten and are beaten out of us. I'll say I'm just addressing a lot of the stuff that I've seen in chat there, James, because there's been a little bits of, I say, new agey stuff that I really want to take issue with. This isn't new age. This is just exploring, particularly when you brought up some of the stuff you're talking about Freud, or you're going to sleep with your mother from AGM. And that's the instant response. I think the point we're making there is how Freudian psychology was used to construct and control the mindset and to set us up for this reset that occurred. You know, think about the time that Freud appeared. Think about what he was there to do. Think about what he was there to replace, guys. You know.
And what did he actually invented disassociation? You know, he separated the id, the super id, and the ego. He literally took a cutlet. He turned your psyche into a cutlet, and he said, "This is the part that's bad, or this is the part that's toxic, I should say." Because no, it's not like he was saying any part was bad. But if you read his intent, if you read the prana economy underneath all his bullshit, what he was telling you was, you need to curb your dogma, dude. You need to curb your ego. You need to cut that shit off, because you're going to develop a fetish. And then he linked the word fetish like a bad thing, which is astonishing, because if you actually know what fetish actually means to create something magical. Like here's amazing. Here's a pen. And then if I draw 2 dots on that pen and a line, guess what? That's a fetish. This is now a fetish. It is an endowed. I've imbued this pen. Now it's Mr. Pen. Hey guys, I'm Mr. Pen. How's it going? By me, voice, by me giving that voice, I have now imbued it. I've turned it into a fetish. I can carry this pen around now. Check it out. I could put this pen on my mantle, and a year later, I can remember how I made Walt smile. Like Walt cracked up when I did this.
I would take fetish to another level there, James. I would say I'd take that pen, and if I had a fetish with what I've achieved there, I would take 100,000 of them, build a football stadium, and have in each seat one of those pens. So I could have a mini football stadium looking at all of those smiley faces, and each one had a drawn individually. That's a fetish to me, to take something not to extreme, and not necessarily for extremeness for your own personal gain, but to just take it to its extremeness of its fullness is what a fetish is. Do you know what I mean? Again, it doesn't have a negative connotation per se. It's just the extremity of your exuberance in that moment.
And I would say that what Freud did was that he took the word fetish, which just means this, and he said what it really means is an overemphasis, a too much of something. He
you don't want to stop suckling the teat of your mother.
He fetishized the word fetish.
Yeah,
is what
one of the definitions on. I just looked it up in the dictionary. One of the definitions is any object or non-genital part of the body that causes a habitual erotic response or fixation.
Yeah. No, and I mean, please forgive me when I say no. I'm not trying to say no. Like,
I'm not saying that's correct. I'm just saying what.
My response was exactly the same there, James. No, it's not about the physical necessarily.
It's not even. It's actually nothing negative. In fact, the first fetishes were actually good. A tribe of pygmies would take rocks and arrange them in a circle. And I'm sorry, that's actually not really a little bit different. But they would take a rock and wrap a feather with a piece of sinew, like some guts around it. And it sounds gross, but I swear it wasn't gross to them. They would develop, this would be a fetish now. It would be something that they could charge. They would imbue with good luck. And then they would give it to their husband who's going out, for the hunt, and say, here, take this fetish with you. I've been charging it for six weeks in my underarm or between my breasts or in, down, whatever. He's been charging it with that. And here it is. That's really what the original word fetish means. And again, if we're going to, we're probably going to be able to find it where it says, no, that's not it. It does mean this. But but I'm just telling you, that's actually not what that word
Right. I was
originally meant.
about to screen share what fetishes actually are, Rob, as soon as you're through.
Here it is. Yeah, that number 2 is kind of right on there, right? Any object, idea, etc., eliciting unquestioning reverence, respect, or devotion. Now, I would say that the unquestioning is wrong. This is how society wants you off of magic and back into the vacuum. They want you out of the ether and back in the vacuum. That's why this is considered bad now. A fetish was actually how you would start a pranic fire. Your first campsite would technically be a fetish. It's a
Let me get the
collection.
screen, Rob.
I'd go with
sorry?
number 1. I'd go with number 1 there, guys.
Yeah, I think you were talking about number 1 myself.
Yeah, an object regarded with
Yes.
an awe as being
That's even
the
better.
embodiment or habitation of a potent spirit or having magical. So when I said turn it into a stadium, do you understand? That's the embodiment. It becomes more than the sum of the part of a load of pens. It becomes the empowerment. It means something. It has something magical to you as the creator of the fetish. It's to be more than a pile of pens with the dots and an upside curly line. It becomes something. It has magical potency. It represents to you a real stadium with all of those pen tops, are human beings. You embody that creation with something more than it is. That's not bad. That's not good. You've just done that to it. If you do that completely at the sufferance of everything else in your life, that's the term fetish that we're given. That you're constantly masturbating or constantly doing this, that, or the other. That's the attribution they'd like to give the word fetish. Whereas to me, it's the term 1, an object regarded with awe as being the embodiment or habitation of a potent spirit or having magical properties. If you demystify that a little bit, then to me that makes sense. There is no good or bad in it. It's just an action and what you imbue on that particular action you've done.
Well, when you hear the word fetish, you automatically hear of, you think of a group of people in a room having an orgy, don't you? That's the first thing that I think
guess
of.
it depends
I don't
on
know if I'm a sicko by thinking that, but that's
I
the
guess it
first thing
depends
that I
on your
think of.
depth.
I think number 3 is quite interesting. Any object or non-genital part of the body that causes habitual erotic response or fixation. I like having my ear straight.
Now,
So I suppose that I would call a fetish because I find that very relaxing.
I'm
I
trying
had
to.
it done to me as a child.
Scroll
by my
down a
mother.
bit to the origin down there, if you don't mind.
And I can see the connection between definitions 1 and 2. Right?
Yeah.
If you can create something that's going to elicit this unquestioning reverence, it's probably going to have some pretty magical potency. Pretty potent magically. My question
AJ
is,
in chat just said that
Don't mind me, Rob.
in Hebrew, fetish means idol.
Scroll down a bit.
IDOL or IDLE?
Yeah, I can see that. IDOL.
IDOL.
To the origin. I'm trying to see the origin. Scroll back up.
Origin.
There it
Sorcery,
is.
artificial charm or sorcery. Yep, same as talisman and amulet.
Right. Let me see the screen. Let me have the screen share for a second, Rob.
So there you go. It's that talisman or that amulet that's imbued with that magical power. It's being suddenly transferred into the physiological. So now it's not necessarily an amulet, but it's an earlobe. If you can imbue that with that sexual energy, it will repeatedly then start to create this fetish where, oh, wow, if you stroke my earlobe, I'm going to get excited.
Yep, and I would say to take it even further is let's go back to the ether. And what you're doing is you're assigning a movable region of ether to whatever you've imbued it with. And that movable region of ether can be tracked by wherever you move the nest. So if you find that bird's nest, that's almost like a bookmark for the ether. Wherever.
Can we come back to that, James?
Mhm.
The ether, because we started out this, we were briefly discussing the need for Einstein, as Arwen would say it. How Einstein was, in my opinion, his theories were rushed in an urgency to quickly decry the gathering evidence for the presence of ether. Whatever it was, there was something there that was acting, as we see with the ring laser gyro now. Something was there, and it was Einstein's rushed-in bodge stuff that was, to me, was brought in too early. Hence why they had to do the bullshit experiment in Africa with the sunlight, the starlight bending around the sun, with a telescope worse than what I've got, to back this up. And this whole thing was rushed in specifically to bring about the demise and the replacement of the ether with 4D space-time, something that fundamentally is unprovable, untestable,
or material.
I would just it out of the material. Exactly that, James.
I would just call it materialism. It really is the birth of materialism. And in the birth of materialism comes the vacuum of magic. All of your, again, this is gelding. This is how you think about a bull that's fully charged with his energy. And then think about a bull that doesn't have any balls. They're two totally different creatures. They're completely different. Like, you can't even really compare them as the same species anymore. They're just completely different animals. We as humans, when we believe in materialism, and materialism literally is the Medusa seeing the world. And the Medusa was someone, she was raped, she was murdered, she was sacrificed. And her pain, the empathy in her face was frozen on her, and anyone else who saw her face evacuated their empathy. It was so horrible what happened that they created the vacuum vortex where all of our empathy is sucked away. Materialism is the hardening of the ether. It is it's imbuing. Think about it. It's the inverse of the word imbue. To create materialism is to unimbue literally everything in the universe except for what our monotheism allows to be imbued. This is why Catholicism is so dangerous, because Catholicism says the entire universe is profane except for what's in the church. What they're doing is they're creating a world where there is no magic, there is no ether, but it can come into the world through a direct channel, i.e. the Holy Spirit. It has a hierarchical structure through the Trinity where it comes from outside the world. This is really the definition of monotheism, is that God is outside of this heathenish, profane place, this materialism, and he is putting himself in, but only in certain bodies. That's why a lot of Catholics are going around going, well, animals aren't real. They don't have real souls. Like this really sick, twisted psychology that we have, that only certain things are actually living creatures. This is a side effect of materialism. And if you look at the as above, so below, your psychology is being taught to have your ego all the way down, to have it just at empty level. And we're also taught that the universe should have no ether. So what I'm trying to say is that the universe's ego is ether. The universe's ego, the place where we live, it has an ego. And that ego is the ether. And this is why, more than anything else, if you look at all the psyops, I will say that Lucifer is one that we'll just put on the side, okay? But take Lucifer and just put him on the side right now. Now take Nazi. Now take Hitler. Now take, I'm trying to think of like the worst charged ideas that you can possibly think of, where someone's putting a lot, like globalism is the perfect example. Look at how much money and time went in to Einstein and relativity, special relativity, to be more specific. All that energy, that's some serious magic going into him. all the different journals that were saying he's right, all the different colleges that saying he's right. This is the exact same time when Rockefeller, if you remember, started his General Education Board, right? 1905, 1910. He's going out and he's taking over the education system. Through $160 million, he was able to buy the American's mind. He donated that money to Congress. They said, you are now in charge of the General Education Board. Right after, 5 years after that happened, here came Einstein. Here came this idea that no, I'm sorry, all the experiments that you think were working before with Michelson-Morley, well, I can't tell you that they're wrong because of science, but what I'm going to tell you instead is, no, the tape measure grew. The tape measure shrunk. That's what happened. Really, this is the real world. The prana underneath all this bullshit is that there's no ether. Why would you put that much effort? I mean, so much effort, like decades of mind control into fighting the ether. Think about quantum mechanics. As Einstein's saying this, people really smart, like Niels Bohr, are going, dude, that's bullshit. Look, that's bullshit. And it still got adopted. It still got pushed. You have to think about that took energy, that took money, that took prana to force people to say, I don't care what's right. This is what we're teaching. So why? Why would that be so crucial? And the answer is because they're trying to geld the ego of our world. They're trying to remove the idea of the ether. That's why what's so fascinating about this, guys, is that's why space has to be a vacuum. It has to be this spot where no matter how hard we scream, no one will ever hear our voice because it's in a vacuum where basically hope is gone. We picturing the universe as a hopeless space. They can still paint pretty pictures, but now there's no ether anymore.
I think that's the introduction of Carl Sagan, mate. What you're describing there is what's brought in, is that we are just a dot. We are this little speck. We're insignificant. That's the key word, isn't it? Insignificant. To put in our psyche that we are insignificant, when in reality, we are the most significant thing. We are the purpose of this creation.
We are the blue whales of the land. Our bodies are the most complex thing you could possibly imagine. I mean, it's stunning how amazing our bodies are. But we're constantly being told, oh, humans are a cancer on the earth. This is the result of that materialism. It's literally the cause, the whole purpose of it. And here's what's fascinating. Materialism is psychopathy. Because what is a psychopath but is some person who's evacuated themselves? How else could you be sociopathic unless you evacuated your empathy? So what is psychopathy but Medusa looking at itself? That's why it's always the same pattern. That's why vampires work the same way. A vampire is a straw in your back, and that prana is sucked out of you. You're rewarded for it. You're rewarded for the entire exchange. That becomes your new prana economy, where you will wake up and you will get this twisted version of prana as long as you empty all of yours out every moment that you can think of. Every moment you can.
James, do you side or err on any side of any religion or?
Good question, John.
So, I studied.
Fill that in, James, just a bit more directly, because I just said, good question. It was something I wanted to chip in earlier. And you mentioned the Trinity. And we had a bit of New Ageism. Could you just describe? For me, the Trinity is the Father. Isn't the Father? The Father sits above. The Trinity is the Mother, the Son, and the Spirit, which were imbued by the Father at creation. So, could you elaborate on wherever you're coming from in terms of what we've discussed? Because the Trinity, whether you're Christian, Muslim, whatever, and New Age that we discussed tonight, that role. I don't think it's clearly defined what the Trinity is. And I say, for me, it's slightly different to the standard Christian, because God is one, and the Trinity originates from one for me.
My perspective is that the Nicene Creed, whether or not, and people get so mad because they're like, how dare you? That's Catholicism. It doesn't matter. The Nicene Creed killed the idea that that there could be anything but one Messiah. It created a Messiah that was actually a bloodline, think royalty. Man, I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I can't, people don't allow me to say I'm Christian because I do not believe there's a blood oath.
You won't offend anyone on the panel. I'll guarantee that.
Let me back you up here, bro. I've been on Nathan Oakley's chat last week before I went on holiday, maybe the week before, and I aired some of my spiritual views there. I don't know where to place Jesus. I have my understanding, and it's not by the Pauline doctrine, yeah? Because that's, as he states in Romans, it's his gospel that he's bringing. It's not the gospel of Jesus that Paul brings, yeah? It's not the gospel of the kingdom. It's the gospel of Paul, as he clearly states in his own scripture, yeah? So for me, I've abandoned all of that because that's not why Jesus turned up to preach the gospel of the kingdom and then have somebody else with, in my opinion, a psychotic episode pervert the gospel of the kingdom, which is an earthly based thing, not a heavenly based thing. And that to me is the greatest twist and perversion of Catholicism, where the teachings of Jesus and all of the disciples, which are about actions on earth, are just forgotten. If we listen to the gospel of James, we're not saved by grace. Jesus' brother told us we're saved by our deeds, and yet we've had the gospel of Paul come in to tell us that we are saved by faith alone. And the second that happens, all of your moral conduct, doesn't matter what you do, you just got to say sorry tomorrow. And subconsciously, it's that concept from Paul that for me is the beginning of the demise of Jesus' teaching. And the current demise, the setting stone, is the first, most initial point. Before we can grab a ball, before we can grab land off of our fellow humans, which we didn't do before, first thing is to decry that heaven should be on earth, which is what Jesus will teach us. This is where heaven will be. Yeah? Won't be up in the sky when we're dead. That was his teachings, was to bring God's kingdom here. And for me, the teachings of Paul are the first beginning movement away from that, to take us away from the true teachings, to allow us to not be held responsible for our actions on this earth. And that, along with the Medusas and all the things you're talking about, is that removal of responsibility for our actions that Catholicism gives us. Do what you want. Just say sorry tomorrow. Bit of a rant there, James. Sorry. Like I said, I was hounded on this point by a lot of Christian flat earthers who I don't have an argument with. It's just I don't agree with them. I've been Christian like you, and the point you made was I actually asked them, well, what is Christian? And they pulled out a section from one of Paul's teachings, and that offends me as somebody who loves Jesus, who respects the teachings that he gave us. To say to me I can't be a Christian because I don't subscribe to Pauline doctrine offends me. It's not what Christianity is about, and I'll leave it there. That's the point. What is Christianity and what is the Trinity, mate? I'll stop rambling.
Yeah, I'm realizing that I don't even think that I could come close to explaining how I feel about Jesus right now, like just in this like it would have to be its own like 3-part show. But I will talk about the Trinity, because
Let us know when you're free.
The oldest myth that we can find, guys. Okay, someone might say, no, what about this? But one of the oldest myths we can find is Uranus is on top and the Earth is down below. This is Mat in Egyptian lore, and there is an umbilical cord touching between the two. And that umbilical cord is severed. It is cut. And right now we are told that Lucifer cuts that cord. Kronos, actually, the very first person that did it, Kronos cuts that cord, and he falls. He falls from heaven, from Uranus, down to Matt. He's the fallen one who cut the cord. The Trinity is only necessary when you have a materialistic world. If you're going to create a bubble of profanity, and I don't mean that in a bad way, if you just look up the word profane, if you're going to create a bubble of profanity and call that the world and put all of our profane humans that are born into sin inside of it, and you're going to then say there's an outer God that's holy and good, you have a scaffolding problem. How do you get holy into profane? And what the Nicene Creed does is it says there's one Lord, there's one God, there's one way, there's one answer. He is creating a scaffolding through the Trinity to get from the outside world where God is, the good parts, and to inject, it's how he imbues into this world that's profane. Before the Nicene Creed, we lived in a world that was holy. It was sacred. Native Americans don't go around like all of them. They don't go around going, this whole place is fucking profane. But we build a building and go inside, that place will be sacred. A Native American says everything is sacred and you defame parts of it, right? You rob it of Parthenia. Christianity says everything is profane, but you imbue parts of it with your holiness. But that holiness can't even come from you because you are born into sin. You need to be saved.
That's Paul's doctrine again, mate.
Say again?
Isn't it? That's a doctrine. That's a doctrine that again was introduced by Paul. Being saved from immortal sin because of the actions of Adam wasn't something that Jesus ever mentioned on his reign on earth. He never mentioned that was the reason he was here. He never says, I've come to clear up Adam's cockle. He never mentioned that. That's something that Paul introduces. But before I don't want to get into too much, but we're talking about, we started off, mate, and it's strange it brings it back because this is my Jesus. And we talked at the beginning about morphic fields. Now, Jesus to me is the bringer, the redeemer of the true morphic field. He brings by his presence and pattern, just like the blue tits, teaching us all that we can just dip in there into the Holy Spirit. And he allows us the access to the Holy Spirit. He sets up a path of humanity that hasn't been seen since, if I want to stay following, since Adam's fall. He doesn't do it and sacrifice himself to redeem Adam's actions. He does it to allow us all, and by his perfection, he allows us all access to the Holy Spirit. And it's that action by his deeds here, setting up the morphic field on earth, that allows us all, by the pattern of humanity that he has laid, access to the morphic field, which allows us, which we've all got now, which is the interesting point about how did humans think before Jesus? How did people act before the gift of the Holy Spirit, before we were able to recommune with God? That's what Jesus brings for me. I know you don't want to get too deep, but it's that morphic field he brings to all humanity so we can all access it. That, for me, is the glory of what he achieved, whether that's in Christianity or even in Islam. You know, even Muslims recognize the perfection that Jesus attained, and that's why he's given the role, even in Islamic doctrine, he'll be the judger because he's the one with the perfect.
Adam, just sort of bringing this back to your fetish of the mud floods and how we don't sort of know what happened, 300 years ago, let alone 1,000 years ago. Where's this sort of relationship with Jesus come from in terms of that you're sort of speaking so, I don't know, I feel it in your voice, you know, it's something you believe in, and it's something you're
There's one thing, mate, that's always resonated with me. He is the way, the truth, and the life. And I've meditated on that phrase a long time.
Is this based on the Bible? Is this based on scripture, or?
Well, that phrase is, obviously, but how it resonates in me is nothing to do with scripture. The way it resonated to me was, this is the way to be with people. This is how you should act with people. These are the emotions you should imbue in yourself with people. So when you look at Jesus in the temple and he kicks off, there's nothing wrong with being angry. It's an emotion that God gave you. It's about how to express all of those things in the correct way. Sometimes there is a reason to kick off. Yeah. So I don't look at Jesus in the sense of the biblical Catholicism way that he died for my sins. I can't say that in my heart. But I do know that the life he led, whether that be real in historical terms or allegorical, it doesn't matter. It's there for me to learn, and how I need to meditate on that, and how I need to improve myself as a person.
Well, I sort of agree. I'm just sort of saying, you know, from reading the Bible, which talks about Jesus, then, you know, I can't really fault it. And that's what I sort of heard from you all over the past few years, is that, you know, whoever is writing this or is bringing this to us, then I can't fault it. And it makes a lot of sense, and that is why I'm going to follow it. And I'm absolutely with you. But I don't know, it's just the personalization of the Jesus and the him and the he and the, I mean, is this something, as other people have had, have you had a personal experience or not?
No. All my life, mate, if you want my personal experience, I started this when I was a Christian kid, brought up in Sunday school, etc. Rejected it, became the science geek that I am, and went off and did all my science. And it was when I started to question science and all of those things, I then started to relook at spirituality. And again, it sat as a backseater because there was so much science in your head, so much programming, that you can forget about that. We're a little dot in nothingness, you know? And it's not until actually you get to flat Earth that your science says to you, well, actually, it's got, and it was evolution for me that as well that brought me to a creator, that you can't have that level of innate programming.
Yeah, same here.
Most importantly, right, you can have a portion of molecules, but it requires a program to underline the way those molecules aggregate to mean something. So evolution and flat Earth are the things that made me start to wake up to spirituality. Yeah. I've always thought this evil in my head thing, that something that my great granddaddy did, in some way I'm responsible for. And that, if I believe in a truly loving God, is it. And I don't, in any of the stuff, when I look for spiritual guidance, I look for the words of Jesus. And I don't see any of that in any of his words. He teaches me about how to be a good person. And that's where I look for guidance, John. I don't look for salvation in any of Jesus's words, because I don't believe it's required.
Well, I'd like to ask James the same question. Sure. You know, what is Jesus to you? Is it a person that lived? Is it a way of prana? Is it, what is it to you?
Before I can answer that, I would really, really just have to set some ground rules about what sin is. To me, what sin is so much more important right now than what we think about Jesus. It's almost like you have to. There's a shroud, no pun intended, but there's a shroud in front of Jesus right now, and it's a shroud of sin. When you join the military, when you go to Hollywood, when you go to college, when you join a platoon in battle, when you go to a monastery and you join a monastery, the first thing that happens to you is you fall down into a pit. And when you're down in the pit, everyone who's in a pit wants the exact same thing. They want to rise out of the pit. It's 100,000% predictable that if you push someone into a pit, you know exactly what they're thinking down in the pit. You have complete control over what their mind wants, what it needs. We circumcise our boys in half the world, and we generally mutilate our boys in half the world and our girls in the other half of the world. And we do this so we can imbue the idea that we are born into a pit of sin. Therefore, we need saving. So you cannot talk about Jesus and talk about needing to be saved in the same sentence because you were thinking that mind control that's been put on us by society is actually somehow related to Jesus, that it's actually a part of that system. And those two things are very, very, very different. They could not be more farther apart, because what you're going to find out is that Jesus is he's a living. So I'm going to say he's an archetype, but he's so much more than that. I'm not trying to dismiss him, but at the very beginning, Jesus is an archetype. He's a living sigil. He's actually a living fetish. If you remember the very first word we're talking about, he's a fetish of human. But what he literally is the embodiment of Fibonacci, of the golden.
Is he an idol?
He is, well, so what he is going to be different to whoever imbues him to be a certain way. Thanks to the way I grew up, when I see Jesus, I have to struggle really hard to not see someone being impaled and mutilated for the purpose of cannibalism on a cross. I have to fight really hard to not see that. The prana underneath that is the same prana as being down in a pit. It's the exact same feeling. I am overcome with a giant, giant wet blanket of guilt. I feel like total shit because someone who's the best guy that's ever been around, the guy that would make every 3-point shot, that would always do the right thing, that would rescue every animal, that would never hurt anything in the world, had to die because my punk ass is so fucking dirty. And I'm sorry to use language, but it's just so cruel what's happening to us over this gambit. So Jesus is really, really twisted in this realm. He's actually being tortured because as an archetype, he actually as an archetype, Jesus is the ultimate ego. He is a fully empowered ego. People heal from Jesus. Do you know why? It's because Jesus is able to open the shame channel inside of that person and say, your adrenaline in you has the ability to heal your blindness right now. I am giving you permission to open your adrenaline so that you may see. What we do is what we always do. If we grow up in a fucking pit, we can never own that power ourselves. So when we're around someone that empowers us, we instantly have to project that and say, well, I can't be the owner of this power. You need to be the owner. You did this. And the whole time, Jesus is literally going, I am not the holy gourd. I am not the holy shoe. All of you are individuals. All of you have your own lives. And no matter what we do, because we cut ourselves, because it's a literal ritual to show how unclean we are, is to circumcise a boy. It's the literal embodiment of that ritual. And because there's no, oh, I'm sorry I did that to you, we are just simply ironing that pattern into our children And that's why they're never, ever going to be able to fully tap into Jesus, to fully tap into what he was really about. The Gospel of Thomas Jesus, the Good Samaritan Jesus, the John the Baptist Jesus. This is someone who went through a near-death experience. He had a resurrection, no different than if you were to almost be hit by a car. Your world is going to completely change for a while, not forever, just for a while. You're going to be in a different
Are you
mode.
talking baptism there, James? When you say near-death experience, are you talking about Jesus' baptism by John the Baptist?
Yes. If you were to accidentally
near-death,
yeah, exactly. If you were to accidentally drown, you would have this near-death experience. And if you were to tell
so we just qualify that for folks just for a second. So there is this supposition that baptismal spiritual awakening wasn't what you see in your Pentecostal church today. That there's a supposition that the great baptizers were people who were perfectly adept at bringing you to a near-death experience by holding you under the water, drowning, and then releasing you after you've seen the lights. That's the supposition behind.
And there's nothing evil about this at all. This is just simply here's Jesus, who understands his body. He understands the chrism inside his body. He understands the pituitary. He understands the pineal. He understands how to raise and lower your energy. He understands Kundalini. He has not rejected his snake. The symbolism is so important here. He has not rejected the serpent that rises and falls inside of his own spine. It's so crucial that we understand that shame is what takes us out of our holy harmony. We are a living cross. We are an antenna. We resonate in frequency. If we are crouched over because of sin, we are not tuning into the signal. If we have a good ego, a healthy ego, we are imbued with this signal. We are able to tap into the divine Fibonacci, to the Jesus archetype, who really is just our perfect vibration. It's almost like a guide saying, yeah, if you really, really want to vibrate correctly, here's a perfect model that you can use, but don't get caught up in this. Don't project it where, it's all this and you suck. This is just your model. This is your template.
I'll say it again, James. He set up the morphic field for us all to vibrate in.
Yes. And he became the first, not the first, because I really think it's not fair to dishonor Krishna. I mean, that dude was freaking lit.
Yeah.
I mean, he was lit. But yeah, he's able to hook up the morphic resonance. He's opening the door, just like the blue tits, where all of a sudden, I hope that's the right word. They knew after a few of them had figured it out, they knew. This is why I think flat earth works the same way. The more of us that believe, that imbue the world, despite all the shame we get, despite all the bullshit we get from the scientism hyenas, that we keep imbuing the world with flat earth psychology, because eventually it will turn into a morphic resonance where it will literally become so difficult for a first grader to go, I just don't know. That's just the stupidest, this globe thing is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And that will become the basic, it's just how it would work. But only after that morphic resonance kicks in. Again, that's why they geld you. That's why they talk about sin. And most importantly, that's why they preach the idea. Oh, sorry to hear. Here it goes. That's why they preach the idea that Jesus was a blood relative of God. When they tell you that Jesus is the Son of God, underneath that prana is the idea that you are not the children of God, because you're not Jesus. You're not, you are sure you can still be a child of God, but you're sort of like the bastard child of God. That's what happens when you go into the pit. That's what happens when you allow a materialism to establish a trinity. What is a trinity but a chain of command? What happens in a chain of command? Everyone in the bottom wants to rise. Why? Because it's shitty down there. And how do you make it shitty down there? You have to geld everyone who's down there. You have to throw them into a pit. That's what feeds the energy. This literally is the Tower of Babel, if you think about it. It's literally the way that we create. First of all, we take a vacuum and let's suck out all the prana. All the ether. First step one, we need to suck out all the ether. I say we have the Nicene Creed. There is one Lord, there is one God. It is the blood relative of God, and we are not that. In fact, there's even a chosen people that are in between you and him. So work that out. That is how you get into this pit. This is how you get into this ascension program. And this is why New Agers hate my guts, because I look at them and I say, take your ascension and shove it up your ass. I want immersion. I want to be in my body. I want my endocrine system to go, holy shit, the driver's home. James is in his endocrine system right now. He is freaking feeling it. He is fully immersed in all of his faculties, because that's where you find God. We don't find God by, let's crawl out of our fucking bodies and live in the follicles of our hair because someone chopped off the end of my penis and no one said sorry about it. Let's create a trauma state where we're walking around going, I suck more than you. No. I suck more than you. Where we're literally flogging each other in public, flogging ourselves in public for competition. Like, look how bad I'm bleeding. Oh God, that's pretty bad. And I got it today. You win. That's a society of masochists. What is evil? What is evil but a bunch of masochists wandering around being masochistic to each other? Like that's what materialism is. It's taking everything that was created, is all this magic, and saying, fuck that. All the ether's got to go. So what's left? That means we've got things that are rocks. And now you know why NASA is so crucial to land on the moon. Even if we don't believe that Apollo was real, even if all of us suggest, oh, Apollo's a fake, underneath that prana is the idea that you could walk on the moon. That is all it took. That is so crucial that we believe that you could walk on the frickin' moon, because it tells you, oh, it's all vacuum.
That's the crux, James, of what you see, what the mainstream allows in terms of debate and what it promotes in terms of debate. It's to discuss whether or not we went to the moon, not whether or not it's possible to go to the moon, given that what we've seen is a pack of shit. Yeah. Let's argue whether or not they went because it was to bankrupt the Russians or not whether it's feasible to go to somewhere which is a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. That's the point. If they can engage your brain so it stays within that functionality of, is that true or not, whether we went, not, is it true or not, whether we could go, that's where they're happy to keep you. It's a bit like 9/11. Keep you in the bubble because it terrorists.
You just described the Hegelian dialectic, but on the moon. Because think about it. As long as you argue we did go or we didn't go, we did go or we didn't go, the synthesis is that you could go. That's the synthesis. And it's fitting that it's always two towers. It's always two towers. The Hegelian dialectic is always two towers. 9/11 is always two towers. Your vocal cords are two towers. It's always, that's the key to magic, man. It's always about those two bumpers. That's why they want us gelded, because if we were operating at full potential, we'd be a menace. There would be no government. There would be no such thing as a chain of command. We would be walking around in this. I don't even think we would talk. I think that we would behold each other. Like, we don't even do this, but there's you can be in the room with someone and have such a huge communication, as long as no one feels ashamed that no one's saying anything. You can drop all that shame and you can just be with someone. You enter into this state where your face is a telepathic connection. That's why all your brain lights up for facial recognition. It's it's really lighting up for is this telepathic connection between us. But our words just screw it all up, and they're supposed to screw it up. That's the whole point. They've got to find a way.
We love a pregnant pause here on IRM in our past, but are you a practicer of meditation, have you felt the Kundalini serpent rise up your spine, etc., etc.? Is that metaphorical or is it physical?
It is physical. I don't practice. I'm not a prana master. I'm very I'm not really in my body as well as I should be. I'm pretty hard on my body. I did, though, however, have an experience once where I actually felt, it was pretty amazing. I felt these colors kind of rise up. I felt the Kundalini rise. It actually got to my throat, and I got scared. I remember feeling really scared, like this is freaking me out. And the second I got scared, it all collapsed. And
where did it get to, James? Your throat. Get to your throat.
Yeah, I got to my throat chakra.
Hey, I tell you what, I've bottled it when I reach my pineal gland. The times I've got there and the things you feel, and the simple fact that what you feel, it just kicks you out. It just kicks you straight out. It scares this living. The only time I've stayed there, mate, was when, and I'll share this with you guys.
How did you get there, Adam?
I meditate, and
right.
What you're describing, John, yeah, you can feel your chakras. You can feel the energy move up through your body. And like I say, there comes a connection when you get higher up that really does start to elicit things in you that are weird. I, like James, I wouldn't profess to do anything other than I've meditated quietly and just listened to God. And that's the difference for me between prayer, when I ask God for things, and meditation, where I just listen to God, okay? And you get to a level, and like I said, the one time where I've gone past that was, you know this, John, when I was put in front of the statutory committee, in front of the Royal Pharmaceutical Society, where I was questioned for my integrity and honour. And I knew I was not done anything wrong. And particularly building up to that, the anxiety was terrible, because all the stuff I'd done in life, I'd done nothing wrong, even at that, and I was in front, prepared to have my registration removed from me through falsehood. So, the anxiety levels were immensely high, and I was meditating there just to stay sane, if I'm being honest, to keep the level of societal pressure, to put it back in its box. Like what James was saying earlier, in terms of, oh shit, I'm about to run out of gas. Oh shit, I'm about to get struck off. And there was this one time, and it was the day before I was due to get the train to London at a stupid time. And I sat there in the front room, and I was just meditating like normal. And then I'd got up past my throat and into my third eye, and I'd opened up my crown, okay, brought it back down, and it didn't move from there. And where I went was really weird, guys. And I was sat in my grandma's house, and my grandma never appeared. But I was in the recliner chair that my granddad used to have before he died, and I was sitting there and I was relaxing. And I'll refer you to the point I said earlier. She stroked my head, okay, and I felt that spiritually, physically. I felt it physically, guys, yeah. And she was there with me, and she said, and I never saw her. I could see every single bit of the room, every ornament that used to be in that house when she was there. Everything was real. I never saw her, but I knew she was there. And she said, "Don't worry, son." And then she left, and I woke up. I came out of it, and my face was just streaming with tears, as you can imagine. And I got up the next day, and I faced what I had to face. I didn't face it with any fear. And I know there's a God, When things like that, it's weird. It's about internal knowing, yeah. But that's what, I'm not a hippie, mate, but I did that. I do that to stay, and it's not happened again. I've meditated since, and I've never got to that level because it wasn't needed for me. got to give it what I need.
That's good stuff. How do you meditate? Yeah, right. No, that was really cool. And that is something that I've lacked for certain. But what I would like to ask is both James and yourself, is how do you meditate?
When I have my experience, I don't think meditation is for me. I think flow state is for me. Now, flow state might be meditation, but I just feel like flow state's different. Meditation tends to make me want to sit still and become still and listen, which is hugely valuable. I'm just being honest. I just don't want to do it. I feel I'm constantly in a state of shit, I've only got, who knows? I might only live another 3 years, or I might live another day. I'm just constantly in a state of, wow, this place is so cool. What can I do now? Like it's, so when I felt that rise, I was sitting on the floor with a couple other friends of mine, and there was nothing, there was no furniture. We were just sitting in a circle, and I was just really enjoying myself. I was just really enjoying the company. I was just sitting there like this.
Any narcotics involved?
And yes, there were.
Okay.
There was LSD was involved in that. I didn't even like to say that though, because I'm afraid that people are now going to be like, okay, well, that's what it was. I really
hate that.
I'm just telling you though that that's actually not what was happening. Here's what I think happens. For me, I enter flow state, which I do all the time with no drugs. I haven't done any hallucinogenic drugs in 5
James, can you just clarify flow state? Because I'm resonating. I know what you mean. But maybe can you, because that's the greatest time, when you're intense.
And I don't care how many drugs you've done or when you've done them.
No,
it's not irrelevant at all.
Drugs aren't relevant to this. The flow state, what James, will you just describe it a bit more in terms of what that actually means? Because I know my understanding of it, but it is something that I think not necessarily everybody's experienced.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yes.
flow state, you've got your challenge, you've got your skill, you've got boredom, you have anxiety, and you have flow state. Flow state is going to be a golden section. It's going to be a
Sweet spot.
a harmonic that you find in yourself. Flow state isn't. Flow state is something that you're going to be able to find in whatever activity it is that you do. It's the walking, living meditation of the activity that you're in. It's literally, in my opinion, flow state is turning the person from noun to verb. When we're under mind control, we think we're all nouns. We think that we're all nouns, and we spit out verbs. But actually, our true essence is verb. And flow state is literally converting yourself from a noun into a verb. And this has a lot to do with assemblage point. So the assemblage point is a part in, this is not my term, but Carlos Castaneda happens to be someone who's really popular that talks about this. The assemblage point is a rendering point. If you're playing a video game and you are standing on the vista underneath the columns and you're underneath the trees and you're shooting at the troll across the way, your assemblage point is at XYZ in that world space. And therefore you're seeing the world from that level. Your body has an assemblage point. If you're approaching the world from, most of us are taught to hollow out our heart, solar plexus. We're taught to shame ourselves enough where we become evacuated. We create a vortex, kind of like right here. And because it's right here, it's just above the belly. And most of us, me included, mistake the vortex for hunger. And that hunger creates a cycle where now you're eating 3 meals a day when we don't actually have to do that. It's creating a different, it's not even a flow state, it's an addictive state. But the point is that our assemblage point gets screwed up all the time. Like if you fall in love with a girl that doesn't return the favor, your assemblage point is outside the body. You're looking at yourself going, oh, well, it's because you're not in good enough shape, or you don't have enough money, or you're missing hair, or because you're a dork, or whatever. Your assemblage point is outside yourself, and you're seeing the world as an outsider looking at yourself. That there's nothing wrong with doing that, but that's an energy drain. Your prana is going to constantly be having to live like a binary star that we talk about. It's going to be constantly having to leave your body to assemble around your assemblage point so it can process that render. It's no different than being in the world in a game and looking at your HUD, and now your HUD is showing you kind of like the above view of what you're after. So this assemblage point can be brought into the center of your cross, your living cross. Your shoulders and spine are a cross with the physioelectric effect. They have the ability to absorb heat and energy, and it can be exchanged again, just like you would compress a crystal. So putting your assemblage point in your body, and to me, your spine is everything. If you could think about your vertebrae as like a really complex xylophone that you have to tune. If you tune each of your vertebrae correctly, each one of them, what happens in harmonics, right? If your guitar's tuned and you play a harmonic, you're going to hear a third harmonic, which is going to accent all the other strings, and it's going to create a beautiful tone. I like to think that that's how our spine works, that through alignment, and this is why you think about the snake, right? Because you're finding your alignment, your kundalini can rise like a harmonic on a guitar string if you're in perfect alignment. And when you're in alignment, I've had moments where I really feels like I was in alignment. And I only know this because people around me look at me different. They look at me with a, I'm going to use the word charisma, but I want us to understand that charisma is just the vibration of your genes. So I'm sorry to have to do that to you, but what we think is charisma, we might call that's good looks. It's probably really just your genes are vibrating in a harmonic way. It's
James.
Yeah.
James, I've got no problem with you saying that I'm genetically fantastic. That's fine. yeah, but that's the reality. See, I wouldn't put it genetic. I would put it as your spiritual glow.
Well, that's what I meant by it's your genes vibrating. So I'm not saying that your genes themselves have this power. I'm saying that your genes are vibrating very much like what we talked about. Okay, let's say, for example, that my grandfather was, Nathan Bedford Forrest, fabulous war hero from the Civil War. If I knew that he was related to me, if I knew that, the genes themselves would not be charged, but my mind would be able to pull a charge from my genes because it knew I was related to this famous person. Jesse James is a perfect example of this. Jesse James, the old Western guy. There's all these people that are like, well, I'm the great-granddaughter of Jesse James, and well, I'm the great-grandson of Jesse James. They're walking around imbued with this charisma. Again, not exactly the right word, but they have this charisma that's vibrating because, and here's the trippy part, because they're able to extract, not in a bad way, but they're able to pull power from their genes based on something that really breaks down to a fetish, if you think about it. It really does break down to a fetish. You had a fetish of a book about Jesse James and you imbued all these things from him. You're able then to trace your roots to them, and now you feel like you're empowered as a result of this. So it's not the genes themselves, it's our will, it's our ability to pull the energy out of it.
So James, how do we use this prana economy, this sort of positive thinking, or this ideology for life? How do we use this for the good? Because all I'm seeing at the moment is desperation, that all this shit's happening around us. We all feel powerless. There's nothing we can do. How do we use it for the positive?
If you're a baby elephant the most important thing you need is for your mom to be vibrating prana. You need to watch her and see her proud of who she is. She needs to hold her trunk high. She's going to know where the lions are and where they're not, where the predators are, where the traps are. You want her vibrating with no shame. You want your mother to be as proud of herself as you possibly can be. All of us are elephants. We owe it. It's not just to ourselves. Here's what's really fascinating. We owe it to the animals, the rocks, the air, the birds, the hummingbirds, our neighbors, our kids, our parents. We owe it to them to make our ego as thick and healthy as we can. Why? Because when you have a healthy ego, someone can come up to you and go, James, you've been tweeting Calvary as in the city, not Calvary as in charge. So for like months, I've been like getting people, yeah, we need to be like the Calvary. I've been misspelling Calvary, okay? It's like I've been walking out of the restaurant with a giant toilet paper strung to my shoe, right? And I've been walking around like, oh, I'm in charge of karaoke and I'm the main event. And I've got toilet paper strung to my shoe the whole time. But guess what? I have a healthy ego. I feel just nothing but good about what I can possibly do and what I can bring. So when someone says that to me,
intention. It's about the sincere intention, yeah?
Well, see,
It's
that's
totally
just
about that. Exactly. That's exactly it.
It's not even necessarily their intention, because someone can say that to me and be really mean. They might have a prana economy where they want to feel themselves better by cutting me down. But because my ego's healthy enough, I can go, oh my God, you're right. I can't believe I did that. I've been walking around this whole time with this toilet paper stuck to my shoe. And I'm going to allow you to step on it so that it will release from my shoe and I can keep going. Why? Because I have a healthy ego. If I didn't have an ego, I might turn around and go, well, no, it's actually vernacularly blah, blah, blah. Or who knows what I would try? I don't know, because I would be that
I've talked about this before on here. I think, well, it's the only place I do talk, so it's definitely.
I was going to say, where else were you talking about it, John?
Has he been somewhere else? Have you been online somewhere else, Savage?
No,
That's out of order.
No, sorry.
Only in the mountains of Boulder, apparently.
Yeah, with my hair stood up on end.
Guys, this is John.
We help
John,
each other
can I-
more than we help ourselves by having a healthy ego. We help each other more by doing that. We're allowed to see other people's prana when we're healthy. I can see someone online say something, and I just know it's not a magical power. It's because I have more empathy in me. I just know this person needs a boost right now. This person could really use just a little something. And the only reason why I'm able to do that, it's not because I'm a magnanimous, amazing person. Bullshit. It's because I have all this extra energy right here. And why do I have it here? Because I'm not walking around going, bring out your dad, here's my prana, I shame myself, I fucking suck, da-da-da-da, please cut off my penis again. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm walking around, and when someone goes, check your ego, brah, I'm like, I think ego's good. I think we should have healthy egos. And their prana economy is now fucked, because they're like, dude, I really needed you to shame yourself and you didn't do it. But meanwhile, I'm leaving with the same ego. I'm leaving with the same prana chips that I have. I can now distribute those to who I think gets them versus giving it to the first hyena that bites me when he's not even hungry, you know?
I have actually seen this play out just recently on Facebook on one of James's posts.
You did see, yeah.
Yeah, speaking specifically about prana. And it was just to see, because I'll tell you what, you could go to Facebook and see James handled that situation exactly the way he's talking about it now. He says, look, I do what I do, and I like what I do. And if you have a problem with it, that's okay. That's cool. I like what I do. So if it takes you longer or whatever it is, that's fine. Just go you be you and I'll be me, and we'll all be better for
the
it.
entire economy. And it's not even me like trying to say that didn't exist or I'm denying you. I was literally telling this person, what you need right now is for me to feel lesser, because it will make you feel better. And I was trying to honor her by saying, I don't want you to feel lesser, but I'm not willing to feel lesser to make you better. What I'd rather have happen is you see how tall I am, And instead of saying you shouldn't be so tall, maybe you could just sit up a little bit. That's all. Well, why can't I inspire you to sit up instead of you inspire me to crouch down? Because that's how life works right now. You know, that's what equality is all about.
What's your Facebook link, just to bring this back down to earth? And
Well, John, can I just jump? There's a part of me that's been banging in my head for the past 10 minutes. And a lot of the stuff that James is talking about, I know what he's on about. Because I've sat there and it's come to me. Okay. And I know that isn't the case for you. So if you'll humour me, I just want to give you a little bit of advice to start on this journey. It's not religious. It's about quieting your inner self and just listening to yourself. Yeah. And there are lots of videos out there, mate, that will teach you how to do it. But I can only encourage everybody out there, if you haven't done this, take time out for yourself. Right? Most importantly, for yourself. Just allot this time. Don't do it at bedtime, because bedtime you're knackered. Yeah. Don't give it for bed. Give yourself an afternoon. Go fuck off somewhere for an hour. Okay. And do this once a week repeatedly. And you sit there, John. Yeah. And go through the meditative cycle that, like I say, you can see, just feel the Kundalini go up through your body. Feel you open those chakras up yourself. Start on your arse, right? And for me, my arse never worked first off. But when I moved up to my prostate, my God, did I feel that. That one glowed. Okay. And sit there and go through these things. And take time quietly to just open it up. Like I say, watch a video. Do that. And the only other thing I'd say is, even now, my mind just doesn't shut the fuck up. It won't stop. And some of the videos you listen to are quieten your mind, quieten your mind, quieten your mind. And you end up berating yourself. Yeah? You berate yourself. You beat yourself up for this shit, for not having a quiet mind. It's nonsense. Yeah? Let your mind go. Don't think of anything. But don't jump on anything when you think of it as assuming that you've stopped quieting your mind. Let it flow and just keep doing it and doing it. And eventually, things that James is talking about how you perceive other people. Instead of you perceiving them as being taller than you, you just perceive a different manner. It's a different perspective. And it's all about the different gifts that God's given us all. For me, there is no superiority. We've all been given a different gift.
I just wonder, Adam, if there is several ways of getting to this state.
There are indeed, friend.
You know, I don't do. I haven't experienced Kundalini, the meditation, etc., but I have experienced a sledgehammer in the face. I've told you, you guys, numerous times. I used to be a nasty bastard. I used to be a very successful nasty bastard, but I used to be a nasty bastard, and it's only been in the last. Well, I have to admit, it's since Flat Earth that I have started looking inward on myself. I'm not meditating. I don't know the Kundalini or anything else, but I can, instead of looking out the window and seeing the bird walking across the street and me thinking, you fat flapper, I'm actually thinking, I want to exude my love to you, because you're not on the same level of knowing, of research or whatever, that you know why you're a fat slag.
So take all of those I don't want to preach, because I can only talk from me. Yeah. But I'm the same there, mate. And it was from meditation that all of those thoughts, those things, that they become clearer. They become a lot more conjoined and make a lot more sense. The whole of the structure of life Makes a lot more sense. It's not something you can verbalize. It's just something that gives you a much better inner peace. Something that means.
Well, this is what I'm wondering,
Let me
Adam.
finish. It's something that when the fuel indicator flashes up, you don't panic anymore.
So
You
what
don't-
I'm wondering, Adam, is that, you know, whether this is why I asked, how do you meditate? Because what I do in my shed with no electrical implements or anything, it's just a chair in a shed, in silence, in darkness most of the time, you know, and I sit and think, or
That's where I started, John.
podcast. That could be meditation for
perfect
some
start.
people.
I'd read, John. I'd sit there, the same sort of thing. And then, you know, like, I don't know what, 10 years ago or more, I'd be sitting there and I'd be reading the Pistis Sophia and all of the kind of Gnostic texts, all those sorts of things, reading them. And this is what I was talking to James about, being in that zone. It's about being in your comfort, not trying to stretch yourself, but living with the knowledge that you do comprehend, reading within that, and allowing the next level to kind of come out when you're in that zone where you're focused in on the, for me, it was focused in on the text. Okay, so not listening to YouTube, but sitting there. And I would struggle with my phone and stuff. So particularly when it was spiritual stuff, I'd print it out on paper, sit and read. And as I was doing that, I'd be in a zone where I'd be reading it, and there'd be points where I'd completely zone out. I'd still carry on reading and turn the page, but my brain was focused on a point that had been highlighted to me, yeah, and it would stay there. It would stay reading, and it would stay focused on manipulating this point, yeah. And
James, what are your thoughts on this?
I know
Throw
that
you in
works
at the deep end.
I know that works for some people. Like, and I think all those should be tried for sure. Me personally, I've noticed that when I try and do that, when I try and shut out the world, and just, you know, really be still, which does make a lot of sense. It just doesn't get me there. I've noticed that what helps me get there the most is, and I'm saying this is for you, but trail running really helps me the most. And I really think that to me, it's just more about that flow state. It's turning myself into a verb. And when I go out into the woods and I'm running, I'm not paying attention to how fast I'm running. I'm not paying attention to the distance. I'm dropping.
Can I add to that, James? That's when you do physiological exercise like that, your body is naturally designed to release the natural opiates, the endorphins, the enkephalins. And in what it does, the natural endorphins and enkephalins, is it separates the central nervous system from all the muscles. So, for example, when you're playing football and you get kicked in the shin, you don't feel it then, because your body is, because of the natural level of raising an endorphin and enkephalins when you stimulate the system, it separates the mind from the body in terms of the body input. So all those physical inputs that could be distracting you, like I say, when you're running, you've got that upbuild of endorphins and enkephalins, you become into a hypnotic state in itself. That's why you get adrenaline junkies. They're not addicted to it because they're heroin addicts, and it's a similar level of heroin addiction, even though it's the same receptors we talk about. They're addicted to it because it takes them into a separate mindset. So you're running and you become imbued and become involved just in that. You're there and you're in the moment. Your endorphins and enkephalins kind of shut down the physiological response that your body's giving it, all of that input, and you become just in tune with that. It's a similar thing. There are lots of ways of achieving. I've never been a runner. I don't do physical exercise, you know what I mean? But for me, it was reading, for me to get into that zone. And I would differentiate that between meditation, right? Getting into it in a physical sense, whether that's mental stimulation through reading, you're in a separate environment where your mind shuts off from the world because you're reading, or whether it's your running, where your mind shuts off from the world, is a separate thing. meditation, again, takes you to that level. But what I would say, because it takes you to another level and it gives you a little bit more insight. And I don't profess to be a guru. It's just something that I do to develop myself. And what I'm saying here is kind of honest truth of how I've learned and the differences between meditating, reading. And it was reading, getting into that zone and realizing there was something more going off than just reading, John. And then starting to actually set time. I say not sleeping. Just, you're the best example that could do this, John. Yeah? Because you've got time in the day. Midday, once everybody's fucked off, give yourself an hour for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah? See what happens and describe it to us. Because that's the if people then do that and go, it's bollocks, then fine, I can't argue with them. I'm only describing how it works for me, you know, and how I've had my mind opened through the experiences I've described to you there. And
well, I'll tell you what, I'll give it a try over the next week or so. My missus is off for God knows how long, next Friday. But as it stands at the moment, reading, meditating, and everything else, I'm going to have to sign off. But my word, that's been an awesome conversation. Really bent my brain. Loved it. Yeah. Thanks
Touch
a lot
base with
to
me
you,
this week
James.
as well, John, about this whole meditation thing. I go through
Okay.
phases of using it and then get what I need, and then I'm in that mode like James, where it's go, go, go. So I understand it's something
I
different.
don't know. I think everything comes down to definitions. It's the same. It's
Exactly.
what people are talking about when they're talking about certain subjects. What do they mean by ego? What do they mean by meditation? What do they mean by Kundalini and rising and this sort of thing? I imagine that I'm inadvertently meditating, or at least what I did when I was in London and I was trying to give up smoking. I went to a hypnotist and they taught me breathing exercises, and I carried on doing those
halfway
breathing exercises. And the reason I carried on was because I had unbelievable high blood pressure, and when I did these breathing exercises, I had the blood pressure monitor on my arm, and I could see it was like, 160 over 120. And I would do these breathing exercises. I could literally bring it down to 80 over 60. And that was just through breathing. So whether that's a form of meditation or whether that's a form
Very
of
much.
something, I don't know. But I've always been interested when people say they meditate. I've always been interested in asking them, how do you do it? I mean, I know some people sit there and visualize a candle or something. There's
Hundreds
a
of
billion
ways.
different ways.
Truly, there are.
Yeah.
Yes, and the breath work,
Exactly.
man. Breath work is next level. It can get you in some weird places. You have to be careful with
It
breath
is
work.
super, super powerful. And if you coincide it with, say, cannabis, or, I mean, it.
Don't use drugs. Don't go anywhere near cannabis. Cannabis wrecks things because it ruins your mind. Yeah, in terms of when
That
you
could be where I'm going wrong.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
definitely
Don't
something you
meditate.
want to keep separate sometimes, for sure. Definitely.
It distracts you. That's what I'm saying. Before you've had your mid-morning split, John, right? Do this. Yeah, that's the because
Mid-morning, what?
before your mid-morning bifter.
I thought you said sprint.
No, God. Ian's on in the chat there talking about going for a bike ride, and that's the same thing. I've got one of my colleagues at work. Her husband is quite into bike riding. He's on it all the time, and she says he's just addicted to it. But you can see why, because he's on the road and he's a middle-aged man, and his mind's clear, and it takes him away. Like he believes the Earth's round. He's an aerospace engineer. He's a doctorate of jet engines and stuff, you know. And we have lots of debates about the shape of the Earth, and he stopped engaging with me, to be honest. But you can see why it makes sense to him, because it clarifies the mind. You're engaged, and it takes you away from the subliminal programming. There's a clarity and a peace to it where you are just engaged in that. Now, physical exercise is one route that I would never ascribe to anyone, because frankly, I couldn't do it myself. No, but obviously,
dangerous.
Obviously, and sincerely, you know, it is a really good thing to do. But
No, it's dangerous.
It's a falsehood.
If you're over the age of 12, then it's dangerous.
No, it's a falsehood in that when I said to you, getting into that state and clearing you and staying calm and being clear, okay, it's good, but the better way is to clear your mind, not allow pharmacological efforts to clear your mind for you. So when I said don't do weed, don't do all those things, yeah, that's the same with over-exertion. That's imbuing an unnatural level of physiological levels of particularly endorphins and enkephalins, which elicits an untrue physiological state. It puts you in a flight and fight response state, heavy exercise. So you're imbuing all sorts of other things, particularly adrenaline. And one of the things I'd say with regards to meditation is you really, the clarity, you need to kind of get rid. I don't know if James will agree with this, but adrenaline is the one thing you kind of want to get rid of. You need to be calm internally. So whilst you may get some clarity from exercise, the adrenaline that it also produces in production with the other things that help, I think, kind of mystify back a little bit and stops you getting to where it helps you. It's not a big mystical thing that you're going to reach. It's just about getting clarity in your own mind. There isn't this, James, do you agree? There's not this big fucking unveiling. It's just all things become a bit clearer and you organize things better and clarity becomes bigger. And then you apply that to your life and it slowly over time it affects change. It's not something that you, like an evangelical Christian would say, I saw Jesus and that changed my life. It doesn't do that. With regards to I've over the past 6 or 7 years, okay, meditation comes and goes. And I've heard this and I believe it. It's not something I was directly told by any individual, but it's something I've looked at and relates to my life, is that there are times where I meditate more and there are times where I don't even meditate at all. And from my understanding, the reason I meditate is to give me clarity of purpose. And if I've got clarity of purpose, then I don't need to meditate. And it's only when that clarity, if I've achieved something, or, you know what I mean, that maybe the internal desire to restart meditating. And I spoke to you guys about losing my beads.
I remember.
The first 2 sets of beads, I replaced them. I've not replaced them. I don't feel, and the first set of beads, I lost them in a fight, okay, where I was pissed off, and someone was insulting my wife, and I tried my best, and I always remember it was an Asian guy, and I'll tell you now, 50, 100 times when I've been meditating, this comes back to me, and it's prevalent to me as a person, is that I sit there and I remember the time before I ran at him and lost control. And I remember sitting there thinking, I should just say this to him in Urdu and turn him into an idiot. And then the ego said to me, nah, but you might turn out and look stupid if you say that and you don't sound particularly Indian, innit? But what I should have said to him is, yeah, would have been an insult in Indian, which is something like, I don't know what I was going to say there. muddy or something to do with, your mother's genitals, along those lines. And I should have done that. And the amount of times I've gone to meditation and that event has occurred back in my mind for me to reanalyze my behavior is embarrassing to me. Because even now, when I still get angry at things, that's why I'm describing it to you now. It's that one that comes back. But it didn't come back because of the event. It come back because, and I still focus on it now, because of the meditation and it bringing it back to me saying, look, you were a dickhead here, Ad. Not Jesus told you this. You telling yourself you were a dickhead here.
Brilliant, Adam. Thanks for that. I thought that was awesome.
That makes sense, John.
It did, yeah. At this point in time, yeah, it made perfect sense. And no, I appreciate you exposing yourself like that. Not in a dodgy sexual way or anything. But...
No, mate, it is exposing because, like I say, when you do meditate, you don't have God criticizing you. You criticize yourself. And there's no better thing to act on. And whilst I can't profess I've mastered this, because I got angry at my children today over stupid stuff that was their fault, I shouldn't have reacted like that. It allows you to recognize the imperfections in yourself, to me. And not at the time, but later, it allows you to mull over them and respond, but also absorb the emotions, as we were talking with James earlier with regards to the fuel levels. Absorb those emotions and understand them. Don't deny them.
Well, this is what I see, Adam.
Have them, but don't act on them.
This is what I see, Adam, is someone similar to myself that is, not criticizing, but analyzing in real time your actions to everything around you, your kids, your wife, even people on the street. This is what I think is important, is that you spend some time analyzing what you do in a real-time situation, to everything around you. And if you correct yourself when you see your fat slag, blah, then you're correcting yourself. Then that can only be a good thing.
No, but that's it. If you don't, as I said to you, take time out of your life to analyze yourself, then you just become egotistical. And you just become driven by emotion. And you don't look at why you acted like that. And therefore you justify your bad actions the next time. And you build on that. If you do this, then you're your worst critic. And whilst it's painful, it's also useful. Well,
the important thing is that we're coming to terms with this sort of thing. We are becoming more and more the masters of our own destiny. But James, you've written a book about this and mind control. You must know, you've seen this coming a long way off. How is this? How can we get over this? How can we rise above this and not be such a predictable sheep race, herd, or whatever?
Well, I just see it really different than how Adam was explaining it. And I'm not saying I'm right. I've actually noticed the exact opposite, that the less energy I spend. Okay, so there's this store called Costco, and what it is when you go into Costco, you buy all your stuff, but before you can leave, they have to see your receipt and they have to look at all your crap that you bought. They want to make sure you're not stealing. And it really puts a big bottleneck in the store. It requires 2 extra employees. It creates this aura of mistrust, which saves the company money. I'm not saying they shouldn't do it, but what I hear Adam doing, and again, I'm sure I'm not saying I'm right, but when you were stalking yourself, when you were looking at your own behavior, you were having to create an avatar of yourself that now lives outside of yourself, that is turned around and looking at you with a clipboard, and he's analyzing stuff. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to do that, because you have energy, you have prana, you could devote a lot of your prana, you could imbue the ether to say, I need to look at myself from this point and make sure I'm not fucking up, making sure I'm saying the right things to my kids. I even need to consider meditating, going into a quiet space and just reviewing my own behavior. Instead of that, what if you could just tap into your flow state where you have complete confidence in your ability to actually be a good human being, and that it will naturally come out of you as long as you have entered into a true flow state. Now, if you've wronged somebody, you're not going to be in a flow state, because you understand, I'm a human being, I have a mammalian brain, all this is about empathy. I'm constantly looking at people for how they're doing, I'm checking in with them. I have confidence in my ability inside the flow state to perceive what's happening around me at all times. And actually, I can find a way, because in flow state, I will have even more flow. I will have even more prana that I'm generating out of myself. It's actually going to make me more generous with everyone around me. I'm going to be the dude that's cruising down Mardi Gras, throwing beads off the float, because I just have so many. I'm fine with it. And it's only because I am in flow state. And this is not about adrenaline. It's really not, because you can enter flow state in painting. You can enter flow state in writing. Right now, my new running is writing. I enter into a flow state where, very much like playing music, well, it's the exact same thing, where you enter into a state where you become a verb. And when you become a verb, there is zero materialism anywhere in the world. Literally everything around you is a wave. There are no particles. Everything is a wave. And when you're in that state, I think there's so much abundance that's there. It's so much abundance that it's going to be more than enough for your dogs, for your family, for your wife, for your community.
Actually, in a very unmeaning way, without intent, have tapped into the whole writing prana cloud out there. Because on Tuesdays and Fridays, when I do the show description, I just have to come up with whatever to talk about. Instead of just being boring and this is what we said, I usually try to make it creative. And it's like, I think we have to have 150 words.
And they're brilliant too, Walt.
And sometimes I have to stop myself. It's like, okay, this is like 500. Let's just put that in, or I'm going to have like a novel here. So it just comes, and I love that feeling. And thank you, John. I appreciate that, because it does. When I read back and I make myself chuckle, I'm like, where did that come from? It's just that flow. It's great.
Can I come back to that point? Just what James addressed me there. I think it speaks probably more to John on this journey. Look, that's beautiful. If we can ensure our actions are empowered by our own overall intention, how we want to be. But the reality is, in life, we go through every day and we're fallible. We're human beings. And we can beat ourselves up over that. And I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting decrying yourself or beating yourself up. I'm asking for you to take a step back, as James is suggesting there. And it is about taking a step back, not beat, because the worst thing you can do is beat yourself up for your actions. Before you can love anybody else, you've got to love yourself. Okay? When you love yourself, you accept yourself for your fallibilities. Okay? And as you move forwards, then you're able to look at your actions that day. And sometimes, like today, and I'm happy to put myself out there as an example in this with regards to my children today. I lost my temper because I was frustrated at my children being teenagers, doing what teenagers do, which is not listen to dad and what he's asking and do what they think is correct. Even though, and this is the fucking hilarious point today, guys, it was about putting a finger over a hole in a swimming pool. Okay? I had knees, I had feet, and all that. 4 times I said, can you just put your finger there? I ended up, through my meditation, of realizing that, because as John says, right, unfortunately, I'm the most calm person in my family, but we are a family of, certainly through the Meekin line, evil fuckers. My dad particularly, and the learning from my dad, and I love him, and he would admit this, the aggression in, and I'm sharing this with my children, is part of the Meekin gene that just pops. And maybe guys on YouTube, I've never heard me pop, but I do pop, and when I go well. And, you get me?
I've heard you pop.
Part of the learning is to recognize when that's happening in you. Part of today is to, and God bless me with my children, for me to recognize that 5 years ago, the person I was wouldn't have recognized that I was being a dick and my ego was taking over. Okay? And I recognize that. And unfortunately, sometimes the best way is to walk away and analyze the situation. Not beat yourself up for being a cunt or being human, but to analyze that behavior is not acceptable and it's not what you want to achieve. And certainly, and most importantly, it wasn't the message you were trying to give your children. So take a step back, reanalyze the situation. What did you want to achieve? Wanted you to teach your children something physically, but more importantly, in everything in life, you want to teach them. No point in teaching them something physically about how to mix a fucking leaking pool. All you teach them is how to fix a pool and be a cunt.
Love you, Meekin.
So the important thing was to take a step back and recognize that behavior, and come back to my children, having gone upstairs and admittedly beating myself up, not beating myself up, but analyze my behavior and say, that's not what you want of yourself. You're better than that. Go out there and do it properly. And that's what I did. And we had a lovely day from then on. I said we headed for air conditioning, which helped. See, but to me, if you self-analyze with a Powling doctrine that you are a sinner, you will only ever lose. If you self-analyze with, I can be better than this, and don't beat yourself up for it, but recognize the behavior and understand it a little bit, then the next time it surfaces, you grab it quicker.
Love it. That's exactly what I've been practicing. Thanks for saying that. On that note, I'm going to have to shoot. Adios.
Well, if you're off to bed, so am I, Savage, because I'm an hour ahead of you.
Adam.
You know what?
Adam? Thomas?
Well, I hate that you guys are ready to go because, man, I could talk to James all night. I feel like we were just scratching the surface, man.
Right.
Especially with this, the flow versus the meditation. Because I think really it's a thing that you just where you are in your life and what you need is what you'll find it. It'll be where you are. I mean, it's obviously where you are, Adam, and need it. I haven't had the meditate, sit still. I used to do Hemi Sing, the Robert Monroe stuff, and I mean, I spent 3-4 years with that, and it really built up a lot of ability to deal with other things. You guys have heard me speak on the entities. We won't get into that 3-hour show, but definitely, John, it'll work for you if you need it to, I guess is the best thing I can say for you.
Yeah, I would say get a set of headphones. And if you need to do them just to block out some of the background noise and listen to yourself breathe to help concentrate on your breathing, good. But yeah, hemisync, binaural beats. I saw somebody in chat said solfeggio frequencies as well. I never really got too deep into the hemisync. I did sort of touch the surface, but that was as I was coming off of the binaural beats. But there's definitely a lot to be said there.
The singing, the vibrating your chakra points with your own voice. I've been a singer my whole life, literally since a baby. So that part of the hemisync, oh my God, that's really what made it work great for me, is that whole vibrational feeling those, like you were talking about too, Adam, not feeling the bass and then feeling this one, not feeling that one. You can literally find the frequency in your own voice of those spots. You'll feel it when it hits. And it's all, I mean, that's why the chanting and all the different,
Ways to help you get there, Josh.
Sorry, people came in.
Like isochronic tones particularly work well for me. And they're like white noise, okay? But they're actually very, very good if you get and you sit quietly. Isochronic tones are fantastic. And they also help and resonate at a frequency that kind of activates your pineal gland a little bit. But any kind of white noise, I think, is useful. For example, the best thing for me getting to sleep is my wife putting the hairdryer on at 6:30 in the morning. That white noise, it just dampens out all of your other senses. And it's about that. It's about quietening down all of your other senses to just listen to yourself, not God. Yeah, but if I'm being honest, listen to yourself, because that's, again, coming back, that's what Jesus taught you to do. That's why I hold Jesus high. All of his teachings, I don't see a contradiction in anything I say. I understand. And that's why I put in there for the sake of chat in the future. Yeah, that's why I stick in there, because as a Muslim would do, he doesn't put Jesus up there as the Son of God. He puts him up there as the most ultimate prophet. And there's a little bit I just want to add to that, and that's with a lot of the anti-Islamic stuff we hear. And I was privileged enough to be, I said on that chat, where my Christianity was taken apart and criticised by true Christians. And then they attacked Muslims. For most of them to find out for the first time that Jesus was the person that was coming back to judge, even in Islam, them at the end times, if you want to stick with religious terms on it. But within Islam, Jesus again, and this helps my understanding Islam, because Islam teaches that Jesus was a prophet, as stated, for the Jews. He was the Messiah for the Jews. And it's that title that I think's been misappropriated for the rest of humanity. For the Muslims, he was a prophet, not the final prophet. The final prophet is quite interesting when you look at it from a Christian point of view, is that what the fuck was Muhammad doing? Jesus already rocked up. He's there for this, that, and the other. Whatever you want to agree. But what was Muhammad there for? And I think a lot of Christians believe that Muhammad is an alternative to Jesus. Muslims don't deny Jesus. They certainly don't deny that he's going to be the one that's going to judge us at the end of the days. In fact, they hold him with esteem for that. But what Muhammad did profess to be was the bringer of, truth is a terrible word for anybody to say, I bring you truth, they're a liar. But apparently he was there to dispel the lies that would occur with the perversion. This is what's interesting and why I look at Islam, because the purpose of the prophet is to dispel the lies and the perversion that Jesus brought, and the message of the kingdom that Jesus brought and the way it was perverted by humanity after his death. That's what the final prophet was there for. And that's what Muslims perceive Muhammad as, is the rectifier of the message of Christ. Now, I don't believe necessarily the full message of Islam. I do find it greatly significant that the purpose of the Prophet Muhammad was to rectify the lies that would occur after Christianity and the teachings of Jesus, which is the one thing that I say, I just can't hang with this Pauline doctrine. I'm done ranting, guys. Off to bed.
Well, you sleep well, Adam. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your rest of your week. Glad you got the pool fixed.
All's done, baby. Yeah, now I'm gonna head off, and I shall listen to you guys in bed because my brains are buzzing. I've got to be honest. There's no way I'm sleeping before you guys are done.
Right.
James, thanks, mate. It's been real fun tonight. I really appreciate your input, and we should do this a lot more often.
Yeah, it was about an hour and a half ago. I wanted to have a little break and play Zach's video, and then come back and try to get into talk a little bit of flat Earth with James, because I know there's a lot of people in chat that are probably thirsty for some just straight hardcore flat Earth talk. And we had a pretty good talk on Wednesday too, talking about satellites and airships and some really cool stuff. So James, maybe we can get you to come back here in the not too distant future and try to pick up this conversation and tie it all in to a flat Earth context.
I think everything we were talking about with prana and with ego is flat Earth. I think if I made any sense to anyone, I really hope you consider putting your assemblage point inside yourself. Don't look at yourself from outside yourself, because when you do that, you're going to critique yourself, and it's not going to be constructive. It's going to end up taxing your energy. Critique yourself from your psychology. Critique yourself from how the world responds to your flow state, to your attempt at being in a flow state. Because if you enter the flow state correctly, people are going to start treating you very differently. They're going to invite you on shows. They're going to say, dude, write another book. They're going to want you to give a talk about something. They're going to treat you totally different than they used to treat you when you had that check person at the exit door that was checking all your receipts before you left, before things left your mouth, before actions left your hands. When you've got this prana sentry there, making sure that you're not going to do something wrong, you're actually starving yourself of flow state. And you have to learn how to trust in your own ability to be good if you're in flow state. And then your life changes, because it just becomes a day and day task of, how can I extend my flow state more? What can I do today to make my flow state even greater? And that's when what used to be a problem before, because there's a prana economy underneath that. There's a prana economy underneath everything that we do. And so when we think, well, my mom made me mad, or my wife or my boss or whatever, it's actually not what's happening. Underneath that is a different kind of economy where you're actually in a transaction where you're looking for someone to be mad at you. You have to understand that underneath all of our words are bullshit. Underneath them is really what we want. And we're going to find a way to get that energy, no matter what we have to tell ourselves or tell anyone else around us. If we want to release some angry energy, we're going to find whatever excuse we can in the most efficient, calorie-saving way that we can to have that transaction. And that's why if you can find yourself to get in that flow state where you just stop telling yourself you're a noun and think about materialism. What is materialism but applying everything, calling everything a noun? It's calling everything a physical particle. that's energy is frozen in the particle. It's free when it's in the wave. And if you can get into that flow state, you're just going to find that you're so freaking abundant that nothing's going to phase you in the same. It's actually not going to be a phase. It's going to be more like opportunities. It's going to be more like I wish I had this video right now, but there's this dude somewhere in Mexico, and he's got like all these groceries in his hand, all these cans and stuff. And it's like a closed caption camera. It shows him. He's got this stuff and a can drops off, and he kicks it once, then he back kicks it, then he kicks it one more time, and it flips over his head and it like lands right on top of the stack. And it's like, that's like pure flow state prana. In other words, if he was in the prana economy of, I want to be frustrated, I want to almost have all my groceries here, and I really want one of them to fall, and then I want to bitch about it, and I want to spend the rest of the days going, God, man, that just sucks. Instead, he was in this flow state where he had enough energy where when something like that happened, what did he do to that energy? He completely transmuted it. He turned what was going to be bad into something that was like millions of people have seen this video, have seen him do this like 4-point kick where he kicks the can back into his pile again. Right now, all of us just gave him a little bit of prana. The next time he gets online, it's going to come to him, or he's going to get it somehow from us, because we see that abundance in him, and we match like with like. We give things what we see them as being. It's our natural habit to just put things in order, to physically like say, well, this goes over here and round things go here and square things go here. We can't help but do that all the time. So I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that consider that idea of flow state as a meditation, and your day becomes a task of, how was my day today? I wasn't ecstatic once. Like not once today did I find myself in this, and I use ecstasy as a broad term. It doesn't have to be like this intense, but just this pure flow state. When did I forget what my name was today? That's like a perfect way maybe of looking at it. At what point in time today did I have no idea who I was, and how long did that last, and what was I doing? Find that and increase it. Find a way to make that part larger and larger. Because what worries me about meditation is you shut off the world so you can step away from the world and reflect. And when you're doing those things, I think what's happening is your assemblage point is stepping outside of the body. It's stepping out of the endocrine system. It's stepping out of this full captain's chair that's really an amazing captain's chair that we have inside of our body. And it's actually kind of telling it, I want to step out of that right now. And I do know that works for people. I know that does. But something else that works that I think is even more efficient is to step in deeper into your body. Like picture yourself stretching into your fingers like gloves, or your toes like stockings, like fully seat yourself in your body. I've said this before, but sit down in your pelvis. Like sit deep in your pelvis and feel that and go, this is my put your skull on your head like a crown, like really freaking wear it. Become fully immersed in your body, because your body is where all the power is. The entire universe is powered inside of your body. And people want you out of that body. They want to pull your awareness out as much as possible, because that's how they geld you. Tell them fuck off. Do the exact opposite. Find that way of seating full immersion. You'll become abundant. You'll become generous. You'll also become really, really wealthy in the sense of prana. Your economy will be different. You'll see people that really want to cut you down. And instead of you even feeling like, okay, well, wait a minute, you're actually looking for an opportunity to, how can I do a 4-point kick on this can and put it back into my stack again on this shitty person right now? I don't want them to be a shitty person. I want them to feel taller too. How can I do that? And I think that's when the flow state really kicks in. It just, you're not even a person anymore. What you are is you've tuned in through your cross. You've tuned in to what's all around you, to the hummingbirds that are right above the computer right now, to the trail that you're on, to your kids in the pool, to the meal you're cooking, to the bass guitar you're playing, whatever it is. To me, that's the compass, is bliss, that flow state bliss. It's the flow state. It's turning a noun into a verb. Abundance is all about that.
I've had to come back, mate. I've had to chip. Are we talking about a different thing? Because I'm hearing you say the same thing that I'm meaning. I'm not seeing a contradiction in what you've said, what I've just rambled on about in a less succinct manner.
Just before you go, James, here's what I see on both sides of this. That state sometimes drains you. And the only way I find sometimes, I don't know, there's the way to recharge is to get that back. Yes, interaction with people and getting the flow can happen. Yes, that flow and the guitar and the writing can get you in a place. But again, different places you are in your journey and your frequency, what needs to become more, it's like a muscle you haven't used. So if you haven't used it, you have to exercise it and get it ready for when that flow hits. You're not overwhelmed by it. I don't know. See, I'm kind of rambling because y'all both got me all over the place today.
Nope. I think I got you.
I don't think flow comes from outside and hits you. I think you through create the crucible inside of yourself through a strong, healthy ego, through strong self-love, but more importantly, through trust, through self-trust. Trusting yourself that if you're in the flow state, you're actually going to be the best version of yourself possible. And maybe that's, I'm not even saying anyone's wrong. I just want to share with people that I've tried the meditation part.
There's definitely no wrong or right here. This is
and I've tried the part where I just evaluate myself over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I don't find abundance in there. I found abundance when I can feel like no matter what I'm going to say, it's not going to be shameful. I'm not going to be ashamed of what I say. And then I'll just start. The words, man, sometimes I write stuff and I don't know where that came from. Like the analogies that are coming out, the connections that are made, I don't know that I'm getting ready to say that. I don't know. And I find myself looking at what I just wrote and going, the fuck just happened?
It reads that way, James. It absolutely reads that way because I read it and I think, where the fuck did that come from?
And I have no idea. It's that flow state, and that's what I mean. It's not me. I think it's my antenna. I'm under the impression that when I get in the flow state, I'm creating enough of abundance where nothing in me is a noun, where things can just naturally just happen. And I've told you all through my life, the magic times that I've had, no one would believe when I've said, oh, well, like, as an example, I was in Florida once. I was swimming. I grew up there in Tampa. I was swimming off the coast. I was minding my own business. I was out kind of deep. A freaking dolphin telepathically said to me, hi, I'm a dolphin. Don't be scared. I'm getting ready to appear. I just wanted to say hi. And a second later, a dolphin buzzes, like swims like around my hip. He kind of went around me and back. I'm not trying to say this was like a flipper thing where he stopped and gave me a note, but he was like a real quick buzz. But I'm telling you, I'm a fucking freaking scared little boy all the time when I was little. That dolphin knew. Like, that dolphin freaking knew. I want to engage with him. I know he can hear me. I have to talk to him in a different way. That dolphin is in flow state. Like, he's so generous with who he is that he's actually has enough prana to come inside of me through empathy and go, here's little Jimmy True. He's going to freak the fuck out. I don't want him to be scared of the water. I want him to feel good because I know how much he loves whales. So I'm going to give him a warning. Hey, buddy, I'm coming to see you. And now, when you're 48 years old, I want you to have a prana bump from this. And I want your prana bump to reach other people too. I am not just swimming to you, James. I am swimming to your flow state when you're 48. And I want you to convey this. These times that happen, they have nothing to do with me. It's all about flow state. It's all about this position,
Right, James, I've come back again. I've got to come back, right, guys. I'm going to share something with you again, and it's so pertinent. Well, I feel it's pertinent. You know, I bought this place in Italy, and it's a complete wreck. Okay, all we turned up in Italy with a bunch of English family on an Italian rural estate, and we said hello to people. We've been nice to people, and we've been, the best human beings we could be with people. Just been nice, not done anything extraordinary, but just been civil, polite, and engaged. Not been polite with people, but actually loving, engaging with the locals and with my pathetic Italian trying to communicate. We bought this place a few years ago, and life's strange, and love's a great thing. And I've learned a lot from my mum. My mum's full of love. She came here and she saw, we went up to the neighbours. They own what's called an agriturismo. So they have a little bed and breakfast basically on a plot of land. They live off the land, and they'll sell a bed and breakfast, and all the food they give the guests is produced off the land. And they're my next door neighbours. And we said hello to them, and we've been to see them a number of times. And love's a funny thing, and you feel a connection with these people. And when I went up there, the lady up there, she's right into ours, and my mum's right into ours. So my mum ended up buying, I don't know why, but we went off, and for no reason, we bought this little, just to express our emotion, love for them accepting us, little gift of an owl, etc., etc. We've had a number of meetings, and we just said to him, he's a farmer, and my land here is just a shithole. Piles of 20 years of crap on it. And we met up with everyone at East, and we met up with them, and we were chatting over Sunday lunch, and, we're going to do this, that, and the other, and one day, And we've come back, and me and Marie pulled up, what would be 4 days ago. And all the locals have probably moved, man. All the locals have helped Sergio, and all of my land. I've got like an acre of land out here. It was just a shithole, ridden with mosquitoes and overgrownness. And the whole thing's flat. It looks like the most beautiful golfy parkland that I've ever seen in my life. And these are real people that don't have the outside pressures, but they've engaged with us and have done this for us. And of all the things that have happened in my life, honestly, the past few days, I'm totally taken aback by it, because human beings who don't know me from Adam, one of the phrase, have done the most beautiful thing for me and my family. And I don't know why. It's just absolutely beautiful. And that to me is the teachings of Jesus. And talking about resonating with people and having the ether, whatever you wanted to call it, that connection that enables souls to communicate and to know what they did for us was beyond thanks, and that to me exemplifies it all, that human beings can act independently and know what we all need. And to me, that's what society does, is it's constructed to hide that, to stop us being able to do that. Every part of modern society is a rat race to deny us that access to our humanity, to help each other. And it's sad when you come to a rural place that you see that enacted, and it's beautiful, guys. And I said, I just want to say thank you to all the locals out here for what they've done for us. It's one of the most moving and beautiful things I've ever experienced in my life. Thanks, guys.
That's awesome.
Backing up. This is what happens, Josh, when I don't talk to you for a few days.
Well, I
Thank you
know.
again, Adam.
Adam, you might want to just go ahead and turn your speakers down a little bit. I think when you came back on, you still had them cranked up from the sounds of it.
I've only got a laptop. I'm doing nothing, but I'll keep muting.
Oh, right on. Sorry, what were you saying, Walt?
Just thinking Adam again. My goodness, between him and James, I've teared up too much today for this show.
I
My
know, right?
goodness, you guys have touched me so many ways. And then I went to chat, kind of play catch up. I looked back, and James has somehow teleported outdoors. What the hell magic have you wrought here, my friend? What is this?
I built this indoor-outdoor desk. I basically just, cut a giant hole in my house and put a bar there. And right above me is the hummingbird feeder right there. And as I've been talking to you guys, I mean, they're all over. The birds are right here. The squirrel actually comes on my desk now. There's a squirrel that actually comes on my desk now.
So awesome.
And it's such flow state. Like this is where I write now. So I turned it around so because the lighting was, I wanted you guys to be able to, I didn't want to look like I was this Dark Lord or something, but yeah, this is a perfect example of flow state. I took out a Sawzall and was like, I'm cutting this hole in my house now. And this is how my house looks, and it's really been, it's epic. Like this desk is amazing. The birds, it puts me in this flow state when I write. And as I'm writing, these birds are saying things to me. They're like, no, that's a terrible idea. Change that sentence, and well, what about this? And it's fantastic. Life is so freaking magical and amazing. And I just keep finding ways, sometimes, not all the time, but I can find ways to tap into that flow state. And it just comes out like molasses. And I've also found ways where I found myself the deepest hole I could find. And then I've asked people that would please come help dig me deeper and find a way to push me down even more. And I found a way to enjoy the masochism in that. And I found a way to be disgusted by what's happening to me, and enough to where I wanted to crawl myself out of it. And I don't know how long what I'm calling a successful flow state right now, I don't know how long this is going, but people don't treat me the same anymore. People treat me a lot differently now. And they did that because I was cracked open. The pain that I went through with my divorce, there was just some special circumstances with it. I'm not trying to say mine was more painful. I just mean that the circumstances were really damaging my psyche because of what happened. And it, if anything liberated me, it was that. It was the fact that I just flat out ran out of the ability to flog myself more. And I found that the only thing that I could do from this point on is just, I actually started being really selfish. I started finding flow state, like through all the pain. I started doing dragons because I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything else. All I could do was just make something aesthetically, like it's just a real selfish kind of like act, in a sense of, I just want to make something that looks amazing for no purpose at all. And the next thing I know, they're like, hey, will you come to Costa Rica and build a dragon? And, will you come to Miami and build a dragon? And it was like, I kept finding these flow states that just kept producing more flow. They kept producing more prana. They kept producing, I wasn't even happy. I was like, for years, I was making these sculptures. I was miserable. But I just kept tapping into more flow. The abundance just kept happening. And finally, my brain rewired enough where I was able to start enjoying that. And I was able to start finding this different part. So I'm not saying I've got it all figured out, but man, there's something to this flow state. There's just something about it. We'll see how far it gets me or how much trouble it gets me in. Who knows? This could be the beginning of a totally different turn. So but right now it's been really working out.
Well, I think there's probably a lot of people that are listening who are in chat that really can identify with that flow state, whether they realize it or not. Because I think once they first got on to the flat Earth, and in their other research, the truth of this reality, I think, is a huge conduit into that flow state.
Mhm.
And once you tap into that truth and you start buzzing and you just start getting excited, and everybody knows when they first found the flat Earth, you were up for 2 weeks. That's what that flow state is. You just
On fire
Yep.
with it. You're right. Exactly. Man, that
Guess
is
what?
the perfect example, Josh.
Hey,
wow.
let me throw this out. What if, because I know exactly what you mean. What if that flow state was because they rejected the vacuum? Like, what if you can't help but reject the vacuum when you go flat Earth? The moment you reject the vacuum, all of your pranic energy isn't being sucked out of you by a vacuum, by the largest vacuum ever to be created. The second that's gone, what happens to your prana? It forms an auric bubble. It stays where it was supposed to be the whole time. And maybe that's what that flow state is. That's why I wrote about the flat Earth karate. Flat Earth is a psychology. It is a stance you take in a dojo. When you were surrounded by a world of vacuumous hyenas that are pushing materialism, you have to adjust your stance. You can't go in with the Karate Kid like, oh, with 1 foot up. You're standing on a ball. You don't even have good fucking posture. You're surrounded by lies, so you have to have a better posture. Flat Earth is 2 feet planted on the ground, not on a ball, on the ground. It's a judo move. It's a way of saying this world is full of fucking lies. Fuck all. I'm going to go into flow state. I want the ether. I'm rejecting the vacuum. And here it goes. Why do you think people get so pissed off at us? Why do you think relativists get so freaking mad at flat earthers? What's underneath the prana economy? They're clogging themselves and they're watching you stand taller. They're going nuts because you're doing the exact opposite, but you're getting paid for it. And you're still suffering the humility. It still pays off. That's why it's so threatening. That's why it's so dangerous. That's why it's so crucial. And that's why I talk about flat earth psychology. Because if I can just get people just to adapt the psychology, just for like, hey, how about for 20 minutes, you're a pure zeteticist. All you do is just purely experience life from your sensories and nothing else is true. And just see if you can stretch that out. And in that 20 minutes, your prana is able to build and stay. It's able to form around you. And of course, as soon as you walk out, some dickhead's going to be like, yeah, well, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And it's gonna get sucked away. It is. That's why we need to fight for flow state. We need to find how can I get back into flow state. It's restoring that prana.
Crow 777 spoke on this specifically in his latest podcast that he released just a couple days ago. He said this. He spoke to this specifically. Go back to square one. Question everything. Be a pure zetetic. Go back and prove to yourself that 2 + 2 = 4.
Yes.
And once you start at that base and start having to only accept the things that you've proven for yourself, something changes. That eventually you can smell the BS when it comes your way because you're tapped into that flow state. He wasn't using the flow state word specifically, but the relation between his conversation and yours is just spot on.
That's where all your power is. Like, imagine you get into your tent every night and you're pretty sure there's probably a scorpion in here. Like, now imagine trying to sleep every night, just kind of knowing there's probably a scorpion in the tent. Like, I'm pretty sure I saw one. I just don't know. You're not going to have a decent night's sleep. But what if you get up in the morning and you say, fuck this. I'm worth more than this. Everything's coming out of the tent. Everything out of the freaking tent. I'm going to shake this bitch. This tent is empty. There's nothing else in this tent. Flat Earth is an antibiotic. It's going to kill everything good and bad in your tent. Okay? The good stuff's also going to die, but that's okay. You've got calories. You've got prana. You're not shaming yourself right now with ego. You're not flogging yourself like a masochist. So you have extra energy now to spend. You can look at your tent and go, here's my pillow. And you could pull the pillowcase out. And there's no scorpion. Now you could put that pillow inside the tent. Now you know, even though all you have is a pillow, man, you're going to sleep good. Like you're going to sleep so good that night because when you get in, you don't have to worry about the scorpions. You already know what's in your tent. You know, this is what my tent is. And if my tent only has a pillow, tomorrow I really want to add a blanket. And you put that blanket in and you make sure it's good. It'll take a while. This is a calorie burner. Flat Earth burns calories. The organ that burns the most calories in your body is the brain, by far, not even close. More than any muscle in the world, in your body, your brain burns the most calories. Flat Earth will make you tired. Enjoy it. Find the flow state. Learn to enjoy burning those calories because it's your pack. It's like when you watch these awesome dudes that show you how to survive. They're going back to this naturalistic world. You really understand how important their knife is, how important their flint is to starting a fire. You know how important the tinder for all that stuff becomes vital, but it's just a little prop, but it becomes their entire world now. And they're able to do more. They're able to expand themselves even more because they've rebuilt their world from the beginning. And every single piece has pure prana. It's not built on trust. It's built on personal experience. Should I imbue this pillow enough to put it in my tent? Is it worth my tent? And that's really your entire world changes. Everything changes about you. You become authentic because now your experience is what decides what goes in the tent, not what someone else said.
And that's exactly where my brain was too, that authenticness that you get from that. So when you experience these huge life-changing traumas like a horrific divorce, or when you just find yourself adrift and you don't know what is what, that seems like a really good way. Go through and just shake everything out, clean everything out, get all the bad stuff, all the good stuff, clean it all out. Then you can go through and learn exactly what your priorities are. And then you put back in only the things you want. And that can teach you who you really are, at least at this point in your life.
And there's no dirty parthenia, right? There's no dirty prana that's hanging around inside your tent. That water bottle that you were given by school that they tell you, well, no, this has been chlorinated with an extra special blah, blah, blah. There's no chance of any corruption because everything in your tent is imbued by your parthenia, not by compulsory education, not by fucking Rockefeller. Jesus, man, that dude was evil. He killed 66 people in a fire in Colorado. 66 of them, family, kids, all of them. That's the guy who made our education system. John D. Rockefeller killed 66 coal miners in Ludlow, Colorado. And his dad before him, William Rockefeller. He raped a housekeeper with a gun in her mouth. Then he raped another one. And then he had his son, John D. Rockefeller. That's who warped our education. That's the guy that told us, here's what you need to know now. Here's what the truth is. These are the same billion-dollar liars that work on Epstein Island. The same guys that bring Stephen Hawking in, bring Lawrence Krauss in. That if they can't even have judgment over what a fucking pedophile smells like, why are we trusting them with our cosmology? Why are we like, oh, you're a fucking genius, Lawrence. You went to a pedophile island and you didn't even fucking know it, but I'm going to let you tell me about what cosmology is? I mean, it's freaking insane. These are all the same people. These elite that we're calling elite, you know what makes them elite? It's not because they're brilliant. It's because they're more willing to lie.
Yep.
That's the only thing that makes them different than you, is that they can lie to your face and feel good about it.
They've got that different prana currency.
They do have a different prana economy. Exactly right. They have a completely inverted prana economy. And they're winning because so many of us feed them. How? Through ego flogging. Did you realize that every time that you recycle or that you feel guilty for how dirty the world is, you're actually giving Al Gore some of your prana? I'm not fucking kidding. You were giving Al Gore your prana. That black magician is sucking you dry like a vampire. Every time you go, oh, I'm going to stick all the trash I have in the world to my body and walk around for 2 years while everyone virtue signals what a great person I am because my shit is in a bag. Like that's how a cancer lives. That's how a cancer navigates the world, is it thinks, well, I'm the bad separate thing that's evil. That feeds Al Gore. That's why they're so powerful. These people are so powerful because none of us believe in the ether, or not enough of us believe in the ether. The second we believe in the ether, we're imbuing it again with our own flow state. We're not shaming ourselves. We're saying, no, I wasn't born into sin. I was born into a symphony. I was born into the most amazing Ferrari ever made. It's called the human body. Why did God give me that body if I'm such a piece of shit? Why have I all the things in the world that he could have me drive? Why did he say, I want you driving a human being? I want you to be the frickin' blue whale of the land. Why would he do that if you're a piece of shit? He wouldn't. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But again, who's getting that prana? I'll tell you, it's the black nobility. It's people like Piso. It's people that invented the Abrahamic religions. All of those religions preach the same thing, materialism. It teaches bloodline. It teaches bloodline royalty. It teaches materialism. And it teaches that you're born fucked, that you are sin. All three of those teach the same thing. And then you throw in Judaism, the one in the middle, and you've got a golden child. You've got someone that's being told, everyone sucks, but you guys suck just a little bit less. So now you have a feeding triangle. You have a system in place where you have a chain of command now. And what happens in a chain of command? Everyone's thrown in the pit. Everyone wants to get out. How do you get out? You send prana to the guy above you, hoping that he's going to turn around and pull you out again. That's how the entire system works. That's why every single thing in our life, everything is an ascension program. First grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. STG, sorry, I was in the Navy. Petty officer, first class, sergeant, corporation, associate, partner, owner, restaurant, busboy, cook. All these are ascension programs, and they all start from the same place. Get in the fucking pit. Get in the pit. And that's why we live this way. That's why we're always into ascension, because we believe we're in a pit. Ah.
Does not exist in this dojo, does it? No, sensei! Defeat does not exist in this dojo, does it? No, sensei!
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, I had a few pulled out just for tonight, James.
You're pulling me back into chat, Mr. Corey. I was supposed to be. James, that was brilliant, mate.
Adam will not go down.
I'm trying to go to bed, but you keep
Pull me back
in. You annoying sods. Mate, that was spot on. I think I don't want to take it to the level of criticalism of religion, because I don't know. I don't know, but I do echo everything you've said in terms of the way in which it's unfolding, mate. I think that was in true traditions of IRM, that was a beautiful rant there.
Exactly. Yep.
That was a proper good. There was many things I agree with them.
There's the Iroquois people, the Longhouse. They founded our country before our country was a country. They had their own bicameral legislation. Their government was a tapestry of agreements. What I mean by that is that there was no majority rule. If you wanted a law passed in government, every single person had to agree, because everyone had sovereignty. Every single person in that government is sovereign, which means you cannot make any of them do something they don't want to do. When you install that's the one thing that we changed. We took the Iroquois Constitution and we changed it, and we made majority rule. We centralized it. What we did is we said, hey, you know who has sovereignty is the government. You know who doesn't have sovereignty is the voter. That's what majority rule is. It's the prana economy inside democracy is that the group is more important than you are. The Iroquois was the exact opposite. It says a government is only the tapestry of agreements, which means the government is only going to be as large as everyone's sovereignty will imbue it with. Government is the child of the people. It's not the other way around.
James,
and that's when you set up this economy. That's what. Say again?
I was going to say, is the Iroquois a Native American tribe you're talking about?
Yes, it's actually the Hacienda is their real name. I just butchered that. The Iroquois is what.
Only because, honestly, from where I'm at right now, I think I said this to Josh about 6 months ago. Old big chief sitting Reading Bull, lying scrote. Whilst I don't deny that the theology that is ascribed to the Native Americans, as we would understand, I would suggest to you that they're not red-faced, big chief sitting bull people that we understand. I think the theology that is ascribed to those people, the history and the way of treating people, that is relevant in this case to the North American civilizations, historically has got nothing to do with random red-haired people with a feather stuck in their hair as a civilization than any more of most of ancient history. I think the ancient so-called American civilization that the Native Americans, as we would understand, ascribe to, are part of the lie, because part of them are part of the massive genocide that occurred across the North American continent and the southern, when America expands itself and the huge. It comes back to what John was saying in terms of what happened 300 years ago. I think the reality is we start to unpick history is that the majesty of the civilization that we all, as Western Europeans, hark back to, this amazing Greco-Roman civilization, these ancient civilizations that we all have in our heart, are actually the remnants of much older civilizations that we all know how things worked. But to ascribe it to ancient Americans, I think, is to, particularly with regards to Red Indians, as those are the last of the Mohicans and all that kind of fabled tales were given, is to engage in the history of deception. I think America has a much greater history, a much deeper, richer history, which is not Red Indian based, it's not colonial based. I think the majority of it is black history. And the majority of Western America's and Northern America's history is the eradication of black people from Northern America, the eradication of the great structures you built, and the replacement with it with a Western 17th century European history, which supposedly, and we've adopted the same bullshit as we look across our history, but a falsified history of torture and dishumanity to explain how we achieve such greatness in building, which is clearly contradicted by the reality of the history and the population of the continents that clearly defines particularly Northern American and Southern American history is a complete falsehood. And all of this history that we're given is part of the paradigm for brainwashing. Northern America is the breaking point, particularly. We see the great fires, the war suffered, and the eradication of a civilization, particularly in the great paintings, prehistory, before photography, that occurred in North America. And it's that is the true revelation that's to come, in my opinion, of how they have destroyed us and how they have destroyed our previous humanity that existed, the way in which we existed, black, white, Indo-Europe, all of the multitude of races that we had, they existed as a common humanity in the past. And that's quite clearly laid out. What's becoming more clear is the perversion and the twisting of history to try and imply that a shitload of white people turned up after Christopher Columbus and built all that shit over there. It was quite clearly a much superior race and civilization that existed, which is where the derivation of these stories of the much superior humanity occur from, which are now attributed to Native Americans in that role. But yes, they were Native Americans, but they weren't, in my opinion, squaws.
Well, like, we also had full assimilation happening. The Cherokee tribe down here in the South where I'm from, 1/3 of them were white or black. In fact, Seminole, the tribe in Florida, is basically anyone that said, no, I don't want to be a slave. We have such a twisted version of what slavery actually is. In America, we're taught that the white man invented slavery and brought it over here. But actually, if you go back to Rome, half of the economy ran on slavery. Slavery is a very old thing. In fact, it's more akin to call slavery codependency than it is to call it oppression. Because the truth is that many of us, okay, here's why I think we're here. I think we're here for sovereignty. I think that there's nothing broken about the world. I think that the evil that we see in the world that we call evil is actually more of like a whisk that's here to turn us, to freaking pound the crap out of us until the good stuff rises, until we gain our sovereignty, until we're so sick of the pain that we're like, I'm ready to be sovereign now. I'm ready for that. And that's why all through history, we have slavery as a mechanism. It's not an oppression. It's not a cancer. It's actually a mechanism. It's how you learn to walk. When a child learns to walk, he's clinging to whatever he can to try and stand up. We're going to call that slavery, but it's not slavery, is it? It's enabling. He's doing the best he can to stand on his own. But because we're looking for a shame culture, because we're looking for a system to adopt where we hate ourselves, we have to project that out into whatever we can through history and say, here's where we're evil. Oh, and wait, we're also evil over here because of this. Oh, quick, chop your dick off. Like, that's how quickly it escalates to where now we're into the self-hate again. And we can look at literally everything that's ever happened and say, well, yeah, because we're evil, or because the world's broken, or because there's psychopaths. Psychopath is a literal walking materialist. That's all it is. There's not like an evil creature. There's not an evil entity that's out there going, I'm going to stick this up your ass and now you're evil. All this is trauma echoes. All these are is empty trauma. People are empty. The Medusa has turned them. They have turned to stone. God is the opposite of that, is the imbuing of life. It is to look at a mountain and say, that's a living mountain. It's full of quartz. It absorbs sunlight. It actually has a signature. It has a tone. It has a frequency. And if you can tap into that frequency while you're running on the mountain, your brain waves now become imbued by that mountain itself. But it's never going to work if you're like, oh, this is just all rock. It doesn't matter. None of this is alive. And that's what was here before. America was a living, breathing continent. And when Columbus came, we covered, there's the prana underneath, which is, I don't care what you believe, I just need you to stop calling this land Katua. I need you to stop calling the capital of the Cherokee Nation Kuala. Let's call it South Carolina now. Let's call it South Carolina and North Carolina. And when you call it that, you're really, really, really suppressing what used to be there. You don't even notice it. Like, we don't even notice it. We just think that's what it's called. That's why this stuff's so powerful. Like the psyche, the stuff that happens to your mind when you start to be told, well, this is what it's called, and this is what it was. It's profound how powerful that is. Meanwhile, you can go out in your backyard, at least down here. You can find these relics. You can see the civilization still telling you its name, still telling you, James, you don't live on Beech Mountain. You live on Clontesca. Clontesca is the quails. The Indians saw the quails here and said, out of all the mountains that are here, the quails assemble on Clontesca. And that's what gave it this name. But no, we changed all that because we had to have a zip code. We had to have a township. We had to replace everything with materialism. We had to say, no, it's all profane unless we've developed it. By developing it, we're imbuing it with this sort of okayness where now it's civilized. I mean, even the word civilized is freaking insanity. That is such an insane word. But we walk around talking, like using it like, oh yeah, well, I was more civilized. Civilized literally means you show your teeth to everyone you meet. You hide all of your emotions, and you find anyone with loincloth who lives off of land and call them a savage. Like literally, a savage means someone who lives off the land and is in harmony with nature. That's literally the definition of what a savage is. But look at what it's imbued with. Look at what civilized is imbued with. It's completely insane. You're almost better off completely doing the opposite of whatever you're told. You're probably going to be doing okay, just because that's how insane the world is right now.
Savage!
No, that is crazy. That's awesome.
Thank God you did that, Josh. I was dying ready to press that.
I could feel it. I could feel it. I could feel somebody waiting for it with bated breath, just waiting for me to hit that button. So I knew I had to hit it quick.
Sorry, James. That's just...
No, it's good. I have to go to the bathroom.
I'm going to bed. Fuck me. It's 3:15 here. I love you guys.
It's all right. Yeah.
I'll see you all soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it, Adam. Thanks for your
Thank you,
perspective.
Adam.
Appreciate it.
Oh, James, we've got to chat more, mate. For me, like, we're on a level of it. I don't deny we're on the same level. It's a different level. I'm not saying it's equal, but we have the same thoughts, but they're from a different human being's perspective. And I think that's, if anything,
A different area of the fractal.
yeah, we're all
Thank you,
different.
Walt. I was getting ready to say that.
We're all different. We're all different little parts of that big crystal, and we all reflect the light slightly differently. You know? And I've really enjoyed tonight, James, sharing light with you, mate. Because I don't know what that light is, but I do know that I enjoy it when we illuminate that light together, and it's been a real pleasure, bro.
You too.
Man, God bless.
And man, we could go here another 3 hours. We could.
Yeah, I could too. I just have to pee.
And
I'm going to bed.
Well, I think what we
I
should
know, it's
do,
just-
we should leave them wanting more, James. I think we should.
That's works for me.
Adam
My
will
dogs need to be fed too.
ever get any sleep. But yeah, man, certainly if you need to run to the bathroom, do that. But we can definitely wrap it up. It's
Okay.
yeah.
I'm going to hang up right now and go back to the YouTube mainstream, and I'll leave you guys to it because I know there's more to go. So
We'll see. We'll
I
see
love
what
you,
happens.
James. It really has been a real pleasure, mate. And I'll be tapping you up next week for the Wednesday pre-show if I was back in the UK, mate. And but we need to chat more, dude. I think
Sounds
it really
good.
did add a lot to all of our conversations. It's been a real pleasure, pal.
I look forward to it.
God bless, mate. Boys, I'll see you later. Savage, if you're still there or dribbling in your chair, meditating even. Night, pal. See you later.
Love
Ciao.
you, Ed.
Ciao, ciao.
Love you. Give the family our warmest and our best.
I will do. God bless. Love you all, guys. See you later.
All right. Love you, Ed. Bye. I don't know what we would do.
I don't know because I'm torn. I'm getting the stink eye already, and
Yeah.
I know it's late. But again, hate to stop here.
I think we should. As much as
My dogs are itching for dinner. So
as much as
All
I
right, well
hate it,
then-
I think we should stop it.
Let's do this. Let's definitely say that this is just part 2 now of many to come, friend. I definitely this could go on and on as a continuing series, and
I love you guys. Yeah, anytime.
yeah, for sure. Love you. And again, thank you for sharing all this with everyone and us here, off air, Twitter. It's been
This is
amazing.
our campfire. This is all of us. So thank
That's
you.
it. The tribe has gathered for sure, for damn sure. Tell everybody again where to find you real quick and etc. I know you got to go. The book, it's coming. I can't wait. I saw it was shipping.
So
This is Blueprints of Mind Control, and I wrote it. It's 2 years of work, and I think you really like it. A lot of it was flow state, pure flow state. So I encourage everyone to check it out. My website's jtrue.com, jtrue.com. You have to hit www, or it's going to give you this warning, and you're going to be like, what the fuck? And anyway, just do that. And you can look at me on YouTube and, Twitter and stuff like that. But I write a free column. My latest column is CNN is the government. I actually explain why CNN is more in charge than the government is. And I actually utilize 7 headlines from CNN to prove that. I was hoping we'd talk about it today, but we had so many good stuff that it just didn't come up. So
I had the article up ready to go for that.
I had
very
all
reason.
4 of them up. Yeah, I did too.
Yeah,
But anyway,
prana and the Jesus, and I was like, man, we'll never get off this. So,
yeah. So, but yeah, if you guys want to check out my writing, I'd love it. It'd mean a lot to me if I get more subscribers, and maybe if you're interested in buying the book, it'd be great. If not, that's cool too. Most of my stuff's available on my website for free, so read it, see what it does to your flow state, and if it makes you more generous, then I'm going to get prana from that, whether you like it or not. So, let it happen.
And I'm going to add this. After you go to James's site, look at all the amazing articles, do some digging around, and you're going to find some little Easter eggs here and there, maybe some funny comics or some art that'll blow your mind. Just, dig deep. It's amazing stuff.
No, thanks, Walt. Appreciate it.
Yep. I'm a proud owner of an autographed first edition. And I understand you should be having a second edition coming out soon. You're about sold out, aren't you?
Actually, the second edition is now in, and sadly, it's just a lot of spelling mistakes are fixed. I'm really sorry about that. It's just a lot. I'm new to writing, and I just yeah. So it's really, the second edition is the first edition. It's just 98% less spelling errors. I say 98% because there could be 2% more in there. So I'm a new writer, so and I just don't. The editor, it's like a $2,000 expense, and it would take me years to even. So anyway, yeah, that's.
I know a proofreader you probably talk to.
I was going to say we happen to know someone who does a bit of editing, and would probably be more than willing to donate some time.
Well, my next book, Prana Economy, I'm pretty sure that's the title. I'm pretty sure. Some people are like, I don't know about the title, so I'm still getting feedback. But I really want to explain this prana, exactly how it works. A lot of it I've pulled out of articles that I've already written about Cleopatra, about Medusa, about Perseus, about a lot of politicians. And it's just explaining to you, look, here's what you see on the surface, but underneath what's really happening. And I'm hoping that'll be a really nice tool where we can actually start to perceive each other for our prana economy. And we'll understand really quick who's in the room to actually better themselves, to find flow state, and who's in the room to really try and feed a desperate, starving ego. And once you understand that the ego is a good thing, it'll be a lot easier for you to actually feed them some ego. And it'll make them a more generous, better person. It'll make you feel better about yourself too. The whole thing will be a plus. Even if they leave mad, it'll work out. I'm telling you, they always come back. They always come back.
That's brilliant.
So,
all right.
I gotta go.
I hate to do it. Go feed your dogs.
Thank you, James. Love
you guys.
Love you too, James. Thank you so much.
Absolutely soon.
Remember, everybody, stop being a human. Go out there and human yourself all over everybody. Don't be a noun, be a verb. Verb everywhere.
Be a verb. I wrote that shit down
So
over
did
here,
I.
so it will be a new shirt coming soon.
Go verb yourself. That's pretty good. And we had a good show this morning. Lots of space lettuce, lots of crazy stuff out there. If you guys get a chance, head on over there to listen. It's indescribable. I don't even know how to go back and describe the things that were discussed this morning because they were so ludicrous. It got stupid with the space lettuce. But we try to have a good time anyway. Walter, you got anything left?
I think I'm spent, my friend. Thank you. We had a lot of activity and chat. To keep up with it was almost impossible. Thank you all for being there and hanging out. Sorry for the background noise there. Everyone who shows up from the morning show over here, the Iron Scouts, you guys, we love you all. Thank you. And all the new people, a lot of new people, man. Thank you all for being here. Please come back. Friday, about 4 hours ago, is when we start this thing. We're here every Friday. Come hang out. You can definitely be an adverb, Mr. Mensa, for sure.
And Alan, you can be a prepositional phrase as long as you're not at the end of the sentence.
Exactly. I'll be a dangling participle over here. Thank you.
Ooh, don't be gross.
I know, right? Isn't that horrible? All right, guys. Thank you all. Josh, thank you. Love you. Adam, I know you're still listening. Thank you, my man. I'm glad you're over there chilling out. John, go meditate. Rob, I don't know what to tell you, man. There's just no hope there. Go befriend the koala or something. You seem to be heading to that natural state yourself, so that's awesome. Miss you. Too nice for rights. The man himself. I wish you could have been here for this one with James so much. Speaking of James, another James was in chat a
Thank
little
you.
earlier tonight. The Full Armor OG, Jimmy Boy himself. Glad to have you in the house, my friend. We miss you. Miss you having around. Miss having you around. So,
And for those of you that remember the Full Armor OG, he was part of the crew. What? Long months, year, 18 months. Hell,
I don't even know. It's probably been almost 2 years ago now.
Probably
Almost,
so.
Believe it or not.
But we are in contact, and I am still trying to pin him down to get him either on the Ironworks or here to visit here again on Have No Sphere. So, James, if you're still listening, prioritize it because I expect to be hearing from you soon, sir. And I don't really have anything else.
Well, to all the Siderophiles out there, thank you for being here. We love you. We'll see you Tuesday morning over there on Ironworks, TFR, Truth Frequency Radio. It's really early, though, so or late, depending on, I guess, where you are on the plane.
Walter, we really do need to pick a day and sit down and spend 6 or 7 hours going through and doing T-shirts and start getting T-shirts out.
I've been in there twice this week, actually, and have some that are floating. I just haven't saved them yet because I'm trying to tone myself down a little bit from the whole. I get a little crazy. I get a little all over the place with it. So yeah,
Well,
we'll get there.
I'll drop you a link. It's a 40-minute video, but I think you'll find it quite informative and you'll really appreciate just taking a look at it and gleaning a little bit of information. You might want to go back and rethink some of the stuff that you were doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, apparently if you build it on Teespring's the only place you can use it. So if you have a cool design, you build a T-shirt on Teespring, you like it, that's you can't take it and bring it over and start using it on YouTube. Only on Teespring merch are the designs used by the Teespring design generator allowed on Teespring. So they sort of copyrighted and trademarked their own material. You build it using their stuff, you can only use it on their stuff, from the way I understand it. And there's a few other little technical things in there with the designs and stuff I think you'll get a big kick out of. But be on the lookout, especially over there on ironwillmedia.com. We should be updating a store, by God, and we will get T-shirts and merch over there. Hell, we might even have toothpaste. Who knows? But I don't think I have anything else. So everybody out there, I hope you've enjoyed tonight's conversation as much as I have, because my brain's going to be running at about 100 miles an hour for at least the next couple hours. So I'm going to have to go and try to calm my brain. I can smell the flowers from here.
Does not exist in this
Oh, that's not the buttons I wanted, but I'll play it.
Defeat does not exist in this dojo, does it?
That's what I wanted. I love it. So thank you so much, James True. Another awesome appearance here on Have No Sphere. We will see you all back here next week, everybody. Have a great rest of your week and have a great rest of your week. Love you. Bye-bye.